Okay. I have a quorum. We're going to start. Good morning, everyone. You're in the Senate Finance Committee. Welcome. Today's Friday, February 23rd, and today's known as Alcohol Day. So we will be hearing 38 alcohol bills from various areas of the county of the state, and I appreciate your attendance. And for those of us, we are celebrating the halfway point because tomorrow is the 45th day. So we're not halfway through our work, but we're halfway through our days. We're going to start with Senator Carrozza, who's here. Senator Carrozza, would you like to come to the table? You have, no, you don't have anyone on your panel.
I do. I have,
who is that?
this is Adjunct Terry Piang from the American Legion Post 16.
Okay. He has forward favorable with amendment, just so you know.
I'm sorry.
He's favorable with amendment.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. You can be.
So, well, first of all, for the record, Senator Mary Beth Carrozza representing Maryland's coast, Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset counties. And I want to thank the chair and Vice Chair Klossmeyer and the members of this very distinguished Senate Finance Committee for this opportunity to present Senate Bill 338. And as amended, Senate Bill 338 would allow the holder of a Class C veterans organization or club, a beer, wine, and liquor license in Somerset County to purchase liquor from a retail dealer. A Class C license is issued to a local unit of a nationwide profit veterans organization or club, such as the American Legion Post 16 in Crisfield. And I do want to point out that this nonprofit located in Crisfield has donated over $175,000 last year to support needed veterans programs, youth activities, and many other of our local organizations. American Legion Post 16 in Crisfield, Maryland, brought the need for this legislation to the attention of the Somerset County Commissioners. In your hearing packet, the Somerset County Commissioners highlighted the benefits of the legislation for nonprofits, including improving their cost control by eliminating the required minimum purchases, providing flexibility to buy minimum requirements such as single bottles, split cases, and last-minute purchases if needed. And American Legion Post 16 Commander Donald Waters has also provided written testimony that the requirement to purchase nearly all wine and spirits from 3 large distributors, 2 of which are located on the Western Shore, far from Crisfield, is a major cost disadvantage and financial hardship on American Legion Post 16, which is a very small and local operation. You will hear oral testimony from Adjunct American Legion Post Terry Payan, who emphasizes the importance of being able to purchase competitively in this very challenging economic environment. And I want to publicly thank the adjunct for making the extra effort to travel from Crisfield to be with us today and for his leadership with ongoing efforts to resolve the current purchasing challenges of the American Legion Post 16, and of course for his 26 years of military service in the United States Air Force. Prior to the repeal of the Somerset County Liquor Control Board, small clubs and small bars and restaurants could only purchase from the Somerset County Liquor Control Board, which did not require the purchase of an entire case of one type of liquor, whereas the wholesalers impose a per bottle fee on any bottle of liquor not sold by the case. The Somerset County Liquor Control Board never required these small organizations with very limited funding and limited customer base to order in advance, to place the minimum size orders, or to and did not impose the additional fees. None of the wholesalers operate brick and mortar establishments in Somerset County, and all purchases from the wholesalers must be made by ordering in advance and through delivery to the Legion. The 3 wholesalers only deliver once a week, not on the same day and not during the Post 16's normal business hours, which are late afternoon or evening. And all have a 3-case minimum purchase, forcing these small establishments to carry a huge and expensive inventory. It limits their critical cash flow, and it leaves these small volunteer organizations struggling to coordinate and to meet the wholesalers on delivery. This was an unintended consequence of abolishing the Somerset County Liquor Control Board that we do hope to rectify with the legislation. I am aware of the opposition of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission. And last week, I requested Executive Director Jeff Kelly to work directly with us on possible solutions to resolving the current purchasing challenges facing American Legion Post 16 and other Class C beer, wine, and liquor retail license holders in Somerset County. These efforts are ongoing, and I want to thank Director Kelly for his leadership in assisting us with the issues that prompted this legislation. So I thank you for your kind attention and consideration. This is Somerset County. You all come and enjoy it at least once a year for the major political networking event at the Talls Clam and Crab Bake. There's so much going on there as we we continue to attract more visitors, and we have our core community group, and it's people and members of the American Legion Post that are making that such a vital community. As we continue to see some growth there and see our tourism increase. So I thank you for working with us with this current challenge, and I would ask for a favorable report on SB 338 as amended. Thank you very much.
Senator, I have a couple of questions. I'm just a little confused because I think what you're telling me sounds so different than, and so now, right now, they could only buy from 3 wholesalers. Is that the current law? Tell me the current law.
So my understanding is we used to have the dispensary in Somerset County, which we now have eliminated.
Okay.
So when that was and I'll defer here, but the American Legion Post 16 and other veterans organizations purchased directly from the dispensary that now is eliminated. So it's changed their purchasing processes.
Okay. I'll wait and hear from Mr. Penham. I may have some more questions. Thank you.
Chairman Beidle and committee members, good morning. I am Terry Pahan, and thank you for this opportunity to appear before the Senate Finance Committee in support of Senate Bill 338. When Somerset County divested itself from operating the county alcohol dispensary, the accepted understanding was that local establishments like the Legion and Elks Clubs would be able to purchase their alcohol requirements from any licensed retailer. The current system of requiring all alcoholic beverages to be purchased only from the state-authorized wholesale distributors was, we believe, an unintentional result. After all, why would a small nonprofit organization like the Legion and the Elks be forced to buy all of their alcohol from a mini monopoly of only 3 distributors? I would like to strongly emphasize that these same restrictive alcohol purchasing requirements are not in existence for any other products that we need to operate our small post. For example, food and operational supplies. We can buy our food from large wholesale distributors like Holt and Cisco, or we can buy whatever we need from our local Food Lion, Dollar General, and small seafood businesses. There are no restrictions on our purchasing from any of these suppliers, only on alcohol. It's important to emphasize that the many monopolies of the 3 alcohol distributors are not being eliminated from selling to the Legion. Senate Bill 338 provides us choice, the same choice that you and I have every day, so that we can go out and competitively best price purchase any items that we may like to have. We all competitively purchase every day for essential commodities like gasoline, food, clothing, etc. We shop around, so to speak. Well, for the Legion and Elks, an essential commodity is alcohol. We need to be provided that same opportunity to purchase competitively, to shop around, so to speak. Your support of Senate Bill 338 will allow veteran and fraternal organizations like the Legion and Elks to purchase in smaller quantities, purchase last-minute requirements, and most importantly, purchase competitively in this challenging economic environment. We need your help to survive, and we strongly ask for your favorable consideration and report on Senate Bill 338. Thank you.
And thank you. We have a question from Senator Ellis.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Carrozza, for looking out for our veterans organizations. want to say welcome, comrade. I'm a member of Post 170 in Charles County.
Thank you for your
So
service.
thank you for your service. Yes, I understand what the issue is. The big thing I've reading through the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission, they said it'll set a precedent. Basically, we have a 3-tier system of alcohol in Maryland. You know, and so they say that would really your bill would set a precedent. And in alcohol committee, from my last committee in EHE to now, we have like great debates before we set a precedent. So I just want to kind of say the issue is you cannot get your alcohol at the price that you think you can achieve. You have to pay more because you have to deal with the wholesalers.
He's asking about
You're
cost
buying
and-
too much.
and probably process.
Well, that would be part of the problem for sure, Senator. And the issue is in the example that you gave, basically comes down to minimum purchases. If we need, say, 3 bottles of Jack Daniels, we can get 3 bottles of Jack Daniels, but we pay a price premium because we're breaking down from the case lot.
Okay.
To buy it by the case lot, and sometimes it's a minimum of 2 cases, causes us to have excessive inventory that we can't move very quickly through our sales to our members, if you will. And therefore, we have a lot of our cash flow just tied up sitting on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas if we could buy from
Yeah,
a
okay,
retailer,
thanks.
we might be able to just
Yeah.
go and buy 2
And
bottles.
the distributors don't want to work with you with your lower demand as far as,
At the present time, we haven't had that opportunity.
okay, all right. Well,
And
thank you.
and I
Senator,
appreciate that question, Senator Ellis. And as you and I know, there are no simple alcohol bills. A wise man once told me that. But to your point, that's why I did want to recognize Director Kelly for, possibly, offering some of that willingness to maybe work through some of those issues.
So you think they might be able to work through some of those issues with the distributors?
So.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
we want, we thought it was important to bring this issue to this full committee on how it's impacting a veterans organization.
Yeah, and veterans organizations are very important, and I always go above and beyond to look out for my comrades. So thank you for your service and thank you for
Thank you.
being here. Yeah, thank you.
Senator Carza, I do see the letter in the letter from Mr. Kelly that they're going to work with the Class C veterans organizations to try and work this out. But I wonder if the other issue would be to allow you to buy less than a case or less than 2 cases from your wholesaler. So that could be another option. Because it sounds like they're really
Could be helpful.
making
Well,
you
that
buy
was-
more than you need and putting a premium on if you buy less.
And that would certainly be an option if that
Okay.
opportunity were provided. The competitive pricing, as you all are familiar with, I mean, if you want to go out and buy something this afternoon, even gasoline, you can competitively look for where the best price per gallon may be, and you would have the choice of buying from whomever. And that's the crux of this whole thing, is to allow us that same opportunity to competitively purchase, to competitively shop for the products that we need, so that we're able to achieve the best price point at any opportunity, whether it's a bottle or a case or multiple cases.
And we thank you for that possible option, Madam Chair.
We will work on it for sure. So are there any other questions for the senator or her witness? All right, we have one opposition, Nick Manis.
Thank you.
Senator
very
Cruz,
much.
before you leave, you have a bill jointly with Senator McKay. I haven't seen Senator McKay yet. You'll need to come back when you find him.
Okay,
All
so
right.
so you'll let me know. I'll go back to my committee until I hear.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Manis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Nick Manis here representing the Maryland Beer Wholesalers Association. As I spoke with the sponsor, and I appreciate that, beer was never part of the dispensary system in Somerset County. So beer was always delivered by the local wholesaler. And as you heard, there was no problem with the beer wholesalers, at least, providing the service And on the House side, we talked to the sponsor over there, and he's looking to take beer out. And I think even Jeff Kelly will tell you that beer is not part of the problem. But this bill, the way it's drafted, would include all alcoholic beverages. So we're just looking, and we'll continue to talk with the sponsor to remove beer from the bill.
Well, that sounds like an easy amendment, Mr. Manis. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think next we have Senator Rosa Pep is here. Senator Rosa Pep, I have two bills that have no one with you. You want to start with Senate Bill 51?
Yeah, I think I only have two bills.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, sure.
These multiple districts in the same county are driving me
No.
crazy. Thank you.
We share your pain. So Senate Bill 51, but actually both bills, let me do it this way. Both bills sort of came out of the confusion in the pandemic. And both bills came to my attention based on family restaurants in Beltsville. In the case of Senate Bill 51, the owner of the restaurant's been in the community 40 years, very popular local family restaurant, good record with the liquor board, et cetera. They got in financial difficulty during the pandemic and got back on their taxes. And as you may know, the controller's office during the pandemic basically stopped working with taxpayers who got in arrears. And so they were unable to catch up and get settled with the controller's office until mid last year. By the time they got everything settled with the controller's office, the deadline to renew their license had expired. And the controller was willing to write a letter saying it was the controller's office that slowed this down. Please let them renew their license. Well, the liquor board did not feel they had the authority to, in a hardship situation like that, to waive the deadline. And so what ended up happening was, in this case, they lost their license. They had to apply, compete against other establishments for a new one, pay a whole new set of fees. And so all Senate Bill 51 does is say that the liquor board will have the authority on its option to let someone renew their liquor license later. That's what that bill does.
Do I have any questions for this senator on Senate Bill 51? No questions.
Thank you. The second one is another family restaurant in Beltsville that also got behind, and their license expired. It didn't get renewed in time. But in their case, and they've been there a long time, under the law in Prince George's County, you can't put a liquor license within 500 feet of a place of worship. Well, the place of worship moved into 500 feet of where this establishment was after they were there. But because the license had expired, they couldn't renew the license. So all Senate Bill 66 does is say if the liquor license was there first and a place of worship comes later, knowing that the liquor establishment within 500 feet, they can keep the license.
All right, is it the same owner,
Yes.
same licensee? Does the liquor board have a position?
I worked the language out with them, and there was no opposition to the liquor board.
And I don't see any opposition from anyone else. Any questions for Senator Rosa Pep on Senate Bill 66? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Going to start the Anne Arundel bill since we know we have the sponsor here. So Senator Giles, chair of the delegation, if you'll go to the table, start with Senate Bill 655.
How are you? Right. Good morning, Madam Chair. Starting with Senate Bill 655. This bill would simply increase the work week to 10 hours per week for the deputy chief inspector employed by the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County, and similarly increase the annual salary of the part-time role from $9,000 to $18,000. This bill is needed because of increased demand for Anne Arundel County Liquor Board services and the additional staff capacity needed to provide these services. And for these reasons, I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 655.
Mr. Wayne, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Well, good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Senators of the committee. Wayne Harris, Chairman, Anne Arundel County Liquor Board. In reference to Senate Bill 655, our part-time chief. All of our inspectors, we have 18 inspectors, 1 deputy chief, which is the 19th inspector, are part-time employees, with the exception of our chief, who is a full-time employee. We just recently started a new program involving a new database, which includes iPads for our inspectors. We needed somebody who could be hands-on training internally, and we found that in our deputy chief. 5 hours a week is not much time, as you all, of course, are very familiar with. We felt that it was necessary to increase his, not to a full-time status, but to a if you want to call it double part-time status of 10 hours a week, and be compensated at the same rate he would have been for the 5 hours a week doubled. It is a necessary thing because of the handling of the iPads and the database. We have some new devices. We've also, we have no internal Anne Arundel County IT to assist us in this. We're kind of out there on our own. And fortunately for us, some of our part-time employees are in the IT field, and that's the case with the deputy chief. There are several counties that have deputy chief inspectors. Some are full-time, some are smaller counties and use the local police and sheriff's department. All of our inspectors are only obligated for 5 hours per week, with the exception of our full-time chief. And in this case, we'd like to double the deputy chief so he can assist those part-time employees in their training, their day-to-day situations and problems that may come up that they need assistance. And that's pretty much it, Senators. Thank you.
You have any questions for this panel? Okay, that closes the hearing on 655. Let's go to Senate Bill 742.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 742 would simply increase the fees for specified Class C per diem alcoholic beverage licenses when issued for one-day events with more than 1,000 attendees. This bill is needed because of increased demand for the liquor board services and the additional expenses needed to provide these services. And therefore, I would request a favorable report on Senate Bill 742, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Senator. In this particular case, I think I need to make it very clear that the club license for one-day licenses, this does not affect 98% of those one-day licenses. So those people that are coming in looking for a one-day license for celebration of life or a wedding or something like that, it's not going to affect. Our fees are $25 for a single day's license for beer and wine and $50 for beer, wine, and liquor. The only thing we're asking here is that for those larger events, and we do have some in Anne Arundel County, we have the Anne Arundel County Fairgrounds, we have the Renaissance Festival, and we have the Maryland State Sandy Park. For those that have large quantities of attendees, we feel that a rate of $25 a day and $50 a day, if it includes liquor, is just not covering nowhere near the time and the expense of our inspectors and administration and so forth. So we're asking for an increase in that. The other counties do have, and if I can, I'll use Frederick County as an example. They have a $600 a day fee plus $150 administrative costs for a total of $750. They also have from 1,000 to 3,000. We're not even putting a limit on that. We're doing that as far as the 1,000 and more. So we're hoping that the committee will look favorably on that. We could definitely use it. Our inspectors, and sometimes we have as many as 3 and 4 inspectors out there. Police department may have as many as 20 police officers out there, fire department, fire marshal, they have a large group. In order to get those inspectors out there, I think it would be a big help if we had that. Thank you.
Mr. Harris, how about like the Renaissance Festival that's multiple days? Would it be $1,000 for every day?
Yes. And when you look at I think it's somewhere around 15,000 people every day.
Mhm.
What we're asking for is an increase to $1,000 for those that are in that quantity, in that large group.
Okay,
And that goes with the other larger venues.
so how many inspectors do you think you have at the Renaissance Festival for any given day?
Yeah, I can tell you that normally we have at least 3 and occasionally 4 if it's a Saturday or the special event or something we feel that may be necessary. This is something I personally was involved in with Mr. Smith years ago. And we were able to work out the day-to-day details as to how to handle that.
Do you see a lot of issues when you're at a festival? Not just the Renaissance, but these big festivals? Do you see, underage drinking or I guess under the influence?
Thank you. It's a very good question. What we've found, especially in the last couple of years, is that the venue themselves, the people working those stands are not doing their due diligence and checking IDs and licenses. We usually just stand aside. We don't stand right there at the booth. We'll step back and we'll watch that. If we see somebody we suspect might be under the age of 21 or being given multiple drinks or whatever the case, then sometimes we will approach them. Now, up till now, we've been what I'd like to consider extremely lenient. If we find a violation, we make those people pour out the beer. And perhaps if we feel they're inebriated, we'll have them escorted off the property by the local authorities. But it takes men to, let's say the average county fair may have 3 or 4 booths that sell alcohol. One man can't keep an eye on 3 or 4 booths, and that's why we increase the amount of inspectors. Hopefully that answered.
You do have some lady inspectors too.
I'm sorry.
You do have lady inspectors too. They're not all men.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. And they're super at what they do.
Questions on this bill? I see no questions. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 742. Let's do Senate Bill 1046.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 1046 would authorize the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board to increase by 35% the annual supplementary and other alcoholic beverage fees for specified licenses and permits in Anne Arundel County, the fee for specified license transfers and renewal application fees for all alcoholic beverage licenses. This bill is needed because of increased costs for the liquor board services and staff. We've discovered that the revenue has not been covering their expenses each year. And for these reasons, I would ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 1046, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Harris.
Thank you again, Senator. Nobody likes to ask for an increase. And we don't necessarily care to do it, but we feel it's absolutely necessary. Our proposal is asking for an increase across the board on licensing fees. Now, this is not the fees for permits and special things as originally put in there. That was an error. So we're only asking for the 35% across the board for all licensing fees. The last increase we had was 15 years ago, and the one before that was 15 years prior to that. So we've only had 2 increases in the last 30 years. We looked at every municipality, every county that has a liquor license in the state of Maryland. And I was able to supply everybody with a chart. Hopefully they have it. And if you look at that, prior to this increase, we were about 41 or 43% from the bottom as far as our licensing fees. We weren't even at the average. With the 35% increase that we're asking for, that's going to take us up to about 51% from the bottom, or if I may, the average across all the county municipalities and liquor licensing those involved. I think it's also important to understand that with the 35% increase, our current revenue right now for licensing is about $925,075 annually. Our impact is much greater than that. Our current salary expenses for those part-time employees, the full-time staff at the administration, commissioners and so forth is $956,000, approximately 31,000 higher than what we're bringing in for licensing fees. We cover that, and we do that with additional fees, some permitting fees, fines and penalties for those found guilty.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions for Mr. Harris or for Senator Guile? We do have Mr. Wise here, favorable with amendment.
There's 1047. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Steve Wise here today on behalf of the Maryland State Licensed Beverage Association, which is the Association of Retailers, and specifically in this case on behalf of their Anne Arundel County members. I signed up support with amendment because it's not support and it's not opposed, and that was the only remaining option. Their real message here is, they're not necessarily opposed to this increase or an increase, but they just want to see some of the data that was laid out by Chairman, by the board chairman and by Senator Guile. And I've reached out to Senator Guile, used Senator Bidle. It's sort of just, hey, make the case, show us the justification for it, and then maybe okay. Because when it takes effect, your phones are going to ring, the association's phones are going to ring, and if we can explain it, I think everybody will be a lot happier.
Mr. Wise, you're suggesting a meeting between the Liquor Board and the Beverage Association?
I think that would be excellent.
Can we do that sooner rather than later?
I think we probably
That's
can,
scheduled.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna, well, if you don't mind, we're gonna do the Senate President next. You're important, Senator Guile, but he's a little more important.
I don't know about that, Madam Chair. This is a room full of more important people, especially with Senate Bill 1100. So, good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Finance Committee. Is my pleasure to be with you this morning on Alcohol Day in a non-alcohol capacity, but with an alcohol bill. This is the annual 46th District panoply of issues that come every year. This year we have 4 that have arisen through the interim. The first allows for the transfer of 2 liquor licenses for establishments in 2 neighborhoods, Highlandtown and Greektown, that are within 300 feet of a place of worship or school. In both cases, and is always the case when we do these, the transfers are non-controversial and both have community support for the transfers. The second issue has to do with a waiver, and this is kind of an interesting one. If you have a 6-day license in the city of Baltimore, you can serve food on the 7th day if your bar is in a separate area of the building. However, there are a lot of row house restaurants that have the bar as kind of part of the whole restaurant area. So if you have a 6-day license, you can't serve food because the bar is in the same location. And so this provides an exception so that a restaurant, an establishment with a 6-day license can still serve food on that Sunday, on that 7th day, so long as the alcohol is separate, is not being served at the same time. And the liquor board can check into it and make sure. So through receipts or actual inspection. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You can still eat. You can still eat. Just can't drink. Third is the revival of a license in O'Donnell Square. This is for the purpose of a transfer to a new owner. And fourth is to allow a Class D beer and wine license to become a beer, wine, and liquor license, so long as that license meets the requirements that we've passed in prior years and cannot move. So they are saying it is no longer a transferable license. They are going to use it just at that location and essentially expires when that establishment no longer is used. So it's not impacting the cost of the marketplace overall. Those are the 4 changes this year. Appreciate the committee's consideration and would move for a favorable report.
Have any questions for this witness, the Senate President? No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Guile, I guess we'll go back to you. I don't see.
Just one left from Anne Arundel County. Senate Bill 1047 would update some archaic and confusing categories of entertainment permits in the county. Right now, so the board would rename the current categories of different entertainment permits. There's right now a dancing permit that's just confusing and doesn't really apply to, and has been used to apply to other forms of entertainment. So this would just update it right now. So right now, then we would have, by this bill, there would be an entertainment permit, a limited entertainment permit, and then a full entertainment permit. And for these reasons, I will turn it over to Mr. Harris, who will provide a little bit more explanation and would ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 1047. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, the initial request for this was just to simply change the titles. Just to go over what Senator said and also maybe clarify something. We have music, which is not being changed or affected in any way, shape, or form. Then we had what was known as entertainment. We're asking that to be changed as a title to limited entertainment. And then dancing, which was really confusing to a lot of our applicants. We were asking to change that from dancing to full entertainment. Now, let me spend a little bit of time in reference to dancing. People would come in. We've had various venues of different categories and say, well, this is what I want to do. What license or what permit, I'm sorry, should we ask for? And we would say dancing. And they go, oh, no, we don't have dancing. We don't want dancing. So dancing was at the time, I believe, just put in there because it basically addressed the dancing situation. But full entertainment addresses all of those under that permit. So that's why we're asking that. The only other thing is we introduced some language in reference to the Office of Planning and Zoning. This was an existing county code in the Office of Planning and Zoning, and we just wanted it in the body of this full entertainment to address, or entertainment in general, to address that, because it is an existing code by the Office of Planning and Zoning. It's nothing that we're asking for, no changes there. We're really just asking for title changes in these three entertainment venues.
So, Mr. Harris, thank you for your testimony. Can you give me some examples of what the full entertainment would be? If it's more than dancing. So what are some other examples?
Yeah, absolutely. Full entertainment includes a wide variety. It is the most non-restrictive of all the permits. So it would include somebody or some establishment that wanted to include dancing. So it would include dancing. It allows karaoke machines, karaoke entertainment. It includes all the lesser ones, disc jockey music, but most importantly, it's any legal form of entertainment.
Like cornhole tournament or?
Well, yes, I mean, it could include, sure, that or something of that nature.
Axe throwing?
Yes. Now, yes, it could include, we have a particular venue that is an axe throwing licensee, but they're restricted to and given the opportunity to do these things, but of course they must abide by all the rules, regulations, and other laws of other departments, including fire marshal, health department, and so forth.
Mhm.
But yes, it opens it up for.
It's not really expanding what people can do. It's just changing the title of it.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, just want to make sure that's clear. Do we have
Thank
any
you.
questions? You do have some opposition, so we'll bring some other people to the table. Todd Taylor and Catherine Buick Taylor. Unfavorable.
Good morning. I'm Catherine Viewig Taylor from Pasadena, and I oppose the bill. There are grandfathered bars and restaurants holding alcohol licenses in residential neighborhoods in the county. Their near neighbors experience the worst of the noise problems and serve as noise barriers to impede the noise spreading further. In our situation, we own both houses on the east property line of a grandfathered bar, woods to the north, street to the south, one house to the west, totaling 3 near neighbors. The bar began to host live music events last summer. The music audible inside all 3 houses. The building is in such poor repair, it can't even contain the sound of their indoor jukebox. After building out their allowable 30% expansion, the bar has built the following without permit or approval from OPZ, which means these areas are not eligible to be included under a liquor license, but they are included in the bar's license. A 1,000 square foot wood bar deck garden, a covered porch, including a music speaker audible inside all 3 houses, a dining room expansion, and 2 large walk-in refrigerators in the backyard in poor repair and noisy. An original alcohol license application gets a full public hearing. Renewals or adding permits or license expansion to outdoors trigger virtually no liquor board review. The only way for the public to trigger another full review is via the renewal protest hearing procedures only available in April. This protest hearing requires 10 adults who live or own property within a few miles of the licensee to both sign up in advance and show up, or the hearing is canceled. This lack of meaningful access to a public hearing allows the liquor board to regulate these noise and unapproved expansion issues largely out of the public eye and incentivizes them to consider these issues low priority, despite having clear authority to address these issues effectively. SB 1047, as written, does nothing to address the liquor board enforcement absent a renewal protest hearing and provides no meaningful access to such a hearing or any other means to trigger a review of license requirements.
Thank you. And I appreciate your comments, but that's not what this bill's about. It sounds like we need a different bill to address that issue. This bill does not address the renewal process at all. So, Mr. Taylor, did you want to testify also, or are you just there to support?
I would like to
Please.
testify as well, please.
Go ahead, please. Pull the
So-
microphone over.
I am opposed to Bill 1047 in its current form and have strong concerns regarding Section A2. These lines are open to interpretation and need language clarifying their intention. I live next door to a grandfather tavern that does not meet any of the requirement in the bill's A3 section. Over 10 months ago, we identified to the liquor board that this makes the tavern ineligible for dancing and live music licenses. The board responded by citing they have the ability to grandfather dancing licenses, even though there have not been any regulations dating all the way back to at least 1980 that support this claim. The board has been dismissing complaints from our neighborhood by erroneously citing they have a grandfathering power they have not been granted. I am concerned that Bill 1047's A2, as it is written, will be subject to further loose interpretation by the board, and they will continue to claim discretion as the reason they do not enforce their music permit regulations. I have an additional concern about Section A2. We met last week with the board and OPZ to discuss the tavern's unapproved expansions that brought the tavern's activity area even closer to our property line. These expansions conflict with liquor board regulations that require OPZ's involvement and zoning expertise. It was clear during our meeting that there is not an established procedure defining the way OPZ needs to support liquor board regulations. OPZ is in the habit of assessing zoning within the confines of their own enforcement policies, but this does not fulfill the obligation of the liquor board's code. In summary, in the absence of a strong working relationship between the two agencies, I believe Bill 1047 needs language that more clearly defines OPZ's role in order to successfully achieve the bill's objective.
Thank you. Senator Guile.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your testimony. It's not indicated in your testimony, and I'm just curious, what's the name of the grandfather tavern?
Is the Magathian?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. May I make one comment about your remark to me, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
So in this language, by constraining the permit issuance or to a hearing, that means you have to get to a hearing to get it looked at. So there is no means for us to say into the arena that the liquor board claims is where the enforcement happens, which is the public hearing, which we can't get to. There's 3 near neighbors. There's a requirement of 10. And that is the connection between my comments. is
No,
the
I
requirement of
absolutely
the hearing.
understand your comments. I do. And I understand your concerns. I just don't know that this is the bill, but Senator Guile will work on that. So
Thank
she's
you.
chair of our delegation. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. You know, we're bouncing around some as senators come in. So, am I doing Senator McKay next? Senator McKay is here. We're gonna do 3 bills for Senator McKay, starting with Senate Bill 428. I'm sorry, we're gonna start with 855. Because Senator Crows is here? Okay, there's Senator Crows. Thank you.
Excellent. Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and the members of the esteemed committee. I'm here to give testimony for support on Senate Bill 855. This bill requires a certain number of members of the Board of Licensed Commissioners in Washington County and the Board of Community College Trustees for Washington County, belonging to a certain political party based on the aggregate numbers of votes in a preceding election by the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you for your consideration and respect a favorable report on Senate Bill 855. There is a delegation support letter in your testimony, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Senator. Do I have any questions for Senator McKay on 855? Thank you. And Senator Crows, thank you for joining us. I guess it's jointly filed with EEE, right? Thank you. Oh, sure.
So we're just kind of, I'm sorry. So thank you. So I'm looking at this bill and things moving fast. So this is a liquor board and community college bill. I don't understand the tie-in.
The tie-in is that it's how their memberships are created. That's what it is. That's why they're together.
How the memberships are created?
To belong to each of those boards. One is the liquor board, and then the other is the Board of Community Colleges Trustees membership.
So this bill is to change what?
So to make sure that when in an election, similar to Allegheny County has a similar bill, that when the Board of County Commissioners are elected, when they have appointees for the community college and then also the liquor board, it mirrors the political makeup of the board.
Okay.
Ensuring that one board doesn't dominate, one political party doesn't dominate over another, making sure that there is actually representation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do I have any other questions? That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 855. Now you can go, Senator Cruz. Senator McKay, would you like to do Senate Bill 428 next?
428, yes, ma'am. So this is the Ed Sullivan Show used to say is a really big show. And this is a really, really big Alcoholic Beverage Act of 2024 for Garrett County. I don't know why we came up with that title, but it's a very, very big title. Now, the purpose of this bill is to establish a Class B resort beer license and resort beer and wine license, and a beer, wine, and liquor festival license in Garrett County. This bill will alter the hours of sale for the alcohol beverages on Sundays for certain licensees, as well require that at least one applicant be a resident of the state of Maryland. It will also prohibit alcohol beverages from being brought into places of adult entertainment to be consumed and transferred. Thank you for your time and ask for a favorable report.
It's a really big bill.
A really big bill. Gotta have a good title.
And do we have a delegation letter?
Let me confirm with myself.
Oh, it's just you. Okay.
It is, as the sole member of the Garrett delegation, Madam Chair, I have confirmed, it was a struggle, but we did come up with.
It's a unanimous.
It is unanimous. Yes, ma'am.
Do I have any questions for Senator on Senate Bill 428? Any questions? Okay. Senator McKay, that ends the hearing on Senate Bill 428, and now we'll go to Senate Bill 853.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 853 was voted unanimous by the delegation. However, this particular bill adds liquor to the existing Washington County stadium license, allowing the multi-use sports and event facility in Washington County to sell beer, wine, and liquor from on-premise consumption. The bill, as I said, was unanimously supported by the Washington County delegation and ask for a favorable report, Senate Bill 853.
Senator, what's the facility? Just interested.
So it's the new Hagerstown Stadium that's being built where the boxcars are going to
Okay.
be playing. The General Assembly has been an integral part and we thank you very much. It's really going to be a game changer for Hagerstown.
Okay.
And so
great.
we're trying to tweak everything just to make sure that the entertainment is great. Now we just want to make sure that the adult beverages are great.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Appreciate you, Grace. Thank you.
Next we have Senator McCray. Senator McCray, would you like to start with Senate Bill 45?
Yes, ma'am. And thank you, Madam Chair, because a number of folks will forget me with Senator McKay, and I'm not sure how. Madam Chair, I come to you in reference to Senate Bill 45. Senate Bill 45 is simply a bill that we have done in reference to the hours of sales for my respective district. With redistricting, I picked up a number of my colleagues' specific geographic boundaries at this time, and some of the constituents have come to my office to see if we can make the lines that were already drawn contiguous to expand those boundaries from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. for liquor sales within our respective jurisdiction. With that said, I hope that we will have a favorable report for Senate Bill 45.
And Senator, do you have a delegation letter?
Yes, ma'am. The letter was supplied to Finance.
Thank you very much. And next we have, that ends the hearing on Senate Bill 45. I don't see any questions. We're going to go to Senate Bill 1079.
Madam Chair, Senate Bill 1079 is a bill where we have two establishments, one in Hamilton and one in the CARE footprint, where the licenses had expired for whatever unforeseen reasons. We want to open it up for a period of time to make sure that those licenses can be renewed. We do have a contingency that this has to have like an MOU with the respective community association so that we always have community input from that standpoint. So I would ask for the favorable report for Senate Bill 1079.
Senator, we have two people. Are they your panel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you want to bring up Sushma Kargi and Vikram KC? Then we'll take questions after they testify.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee for the opportunity. We are in favor for the Senate Bill 1079. So I am the owner of the restaurant Subi and Maya LLC. So for some reason, we could not renew our license in 2023 of March due to COVID. And I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous. So we had to do some renovations to renew our liquor license, and on April of 2023, our license expired for COVID reasons. We could not complete the renovations on time, and our license expires. Because of that, we couldn't open our business. So our business has been sitting closed since September of 2023, since we closed the business.
Sure. This was a closed business during COVID times. We tried to renovate it, but because of contractor delays and supply chain delays, the work couldn't be done on time. So, the license, we had extension hardship, but it was no way could have done on time. So we want your help to get it revived so the business can reopen. And the community is really excited for the business in Hamilton. We be here for them all the time. So it will be a good input to the community. We have support of the business, local businesses. So hoping to this extent.
So the renovations are completed now?
Yeah.
Is this a restaurant?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, thank you for your testimony. I don't see any questions. I don't see any opposition. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much once again.
Watson is here. Senator Watson, let's start with the easy bill. Senate Bill 9.
Which one we starting with?
Senate Bill 9.
Okay. Yeah, I wish I did have easy bills and I could represent my entire district by myself like Senator McKay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair Klossmeyer, colleagues. I'm here to present Senate Bill, I get my numbers mixed up here, Senate Bill 9. There we go, nonprofit organizations. Okay, so what we have right now, I looked up in my district and I had a variety of organizations such as VFWs, FOPs, Moose Lodges, Elks Lodges, DAVs, and each of these organizations have a house and they have a liquor license. And the liquor license allows them to generate revenue and to see to the needs of the community. The challenge in the way the bill is currently written, it excludes Black fraternal and soror organizations because we don't have those large purse strings where somebody drops down and purchases us a house. What we've done in Prince George's County is we've tried to bring our members together and we've purchased property under a 501c3. So by definition, that property purchased is not direct, that entity is not directly tied to a national organization. What this bill does is makes a small change that says it also now includes an independent and nonprofit nationwide fraternal or soror organization whose members is composed solely of graduate members of an independent and nonprofit nationwide fraternal or soror organization. That one change will allow the other fraternities and sororities to be able to do the same thing with the same responsibilities, membership requirements. They have to have a home and follow all the same rules, but it just allows Black fraternities and sororities to be able to do the same thing as these other nationwide fraternal and soror organizations do. There was one amendment that was offered by our Senator Washington over here. We work very well together. And but there was an issue that University of Maryland brought up that they thought that the current bill, they didn't know the bill existed. They wanted to ensure that it didn't allow an on-campus fraternity or sorority to be able to get a liquor license. And so we added a provision in here that said it does not include college or high school fraternity or sorority or any other fraternity or sorority, the membership of which is restricted in whole or in part to students of an educational institution or a professional school. That language was vetted with Ross Stern from University of Maryland, and we think that this satisfies the intent. That is my
Thank you, Senator. I have a question from Senator Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm curious, part of your testimony is that these organizations don't have the largest kind of treasuries that the other organizations have. Why would you keep the licensing fee the same? Why
would you do what?
Why wouldn't you consider reducing the licensing fee if these organizations don't have the largest treasuries that the other organizations have?
The license fee is minimal.
Is $910 a year.
That's minimal.
Okay.
That's minimal.
It's much cheaper in other jurisdictions just to offer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other questions. Senator, that ends the hearing. And have you given us the amendment? We do have it. Okay, thank you. We have the amendment.
Okay.
Thank you. And we have a letter. Okay, thank you. Senator, your next bill, that ends the hearing on Senate Bill 9. Now we have Senate Bill 186.
This is the fun bill. Good morning again, and I want to thank Chair Abado for sitting down and speaking with me about this bill. This is I'm here to introduce Senate Bill 186, Cigar Lounge License. A cigar lounge is a specialized establishment where individuals can purchase and enjoy premium cigars in a comfortable and often luxurious environment. Premium cigars are high quality cigars aged for a longer period of time and usually made with a blend of tobacco from around the world. Premium cigars can range from $20 to $50 or more, while ultra premium cigars can reach well over $100. These lounges typically offer a selection of cigars for purchase, as well as amenities such as comfortable seating, ventilation systems to maintain air quality, and beverage services. They provide a social space for cigar enthusiasts to relax, socialize, and appreciate cigars in a setting conducive to conversation and leisure. Many cigar lounges also offer memberships. This local bill, which was voted out of Prince George's House delegation today and will be taken up by the Senate next week, allows Prince George's County the ability to have premium cigar lounges that serve liquors within its boundaries, as our neighbors are allowed to do currently, north in Anne Arundel, which have 2, our neighbors to the south, like Charles County, which has 3, and our neighbor here to the east, as in the city of Annapolis, who recently modified their ordinance to accommodate the only minority-owned cigar lounge in the city to help ensure their success and add to the amenities offered by the city. We view this as an issue of equity and fairness in allowing Prince George to have the same opportunity to generate revenue and grow and diversify our business tax base as do other counties throughout the state. And in addition to what was previously stated, St. Mary's County has 2 and Calvert County held a grand opening for theirs last month. As amended, this bill establishes a Class D cigar lounge, beer, wine, and liquor license in Prince George's County, which authorized the licensee to sell beer, wine, and liquor for on-premise consumption at cigar lounges. The Board of License Commissioners for Prince George's County is prohibited from issuing more than 4 licenses and may not issue a license to a cigar lounge that is located within 10 miles of another cigar lounge in the county and not equipped with a humidor. The license holder is restricted to selling alcohol on Monday through Sunday from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. The license fee is $900, and the board may not issue a license for an establishment that is within 500 feet of a place of worship or within 1,000 feet of a school building. Colleagues, Prince George's County is already struggling to meet its commitments regarding the blueprint, and we are laser focused to expand and diversify our business tax base, and we don't want to just be relegated to cannabis dispensaries. Finally, before I close, we've had a lot of discussion regarding the Clean Air Act. And I refer you to section 24-502. The legislative intent of the Clean Indoor Act is the intent of the General Assembly that the state protect the public and employees from involuntary exposure to environmental tobacco smoke in indoor areas open to the public, indoor places of employment, and certain designated private areas. The key word there is involuntary. No one goes into a cigar lounge not thinking that there's going to be no cigar smoke. And finally, the provisions of the Clean Indoor Act does not apply to a retail tobacco business that is a sole proprietorship, LLC, corporation, partnership, or other enterprise in which the primary activity is the retail sale of tobacco products and accessories, and the sale of other products is incidental. Colleagues, I ask for your support for Senate Bill 186 Cigar Lounge.
Thank you, Senator. You have some folks here on your panel, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Matthew Boley, Stephen Castro, and Finney Helmuth. Is that that's your?
Finney couldn't make it today, but I
Finney
have
couldn't
to.
make it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Boley?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Matthew Boley of RWL Law here on behalf of the Maryland Premium Cigar Retailers Association in support of SB 186. The Maryland Premium Cigar Retailers Association are Maryland-owned mom and pop brick and mortar premium cigar retailers. This legislation enables Prince George's County to serve a niche market that mostly sends their dollars to DC and Virginia and every other state that surrounds Maryland. That niche market is those who would like to purchase and enjoy with friends both alcoholic beverages and premium cigars in the same venue. The ability to have these two products sold in the same venue would not be unique to Prince George's County. Several county liquor boards throughout Maryland have awarded local liquor licenses to licensed tobacconists and other establishments throughout Maryland. Clarifying and expanding this ability to a niche market is something many Marylanders want, as some have an inability to smoke at home or just a desire to go out with friends and enjoy premium cigar and alcohol, which are both legal products that should be able to be sold and consumed at the same venue. If we do not enact this legislation, we continue an imbalance in Maryland where some counties have these recreational options and others don't. And we will continue to see Marylanders spend their dollars in DC, Virginia, and every other state that borders Maryland. Last year, Connecticut enabled a limited expansion of cigar lounges, and we should follow their lead. The answer to these imbalances in Maryland is a limited expansion of premium cigar lounges, and that is why I respectfully request a favorable report.
Thank you. And Mr. Castro?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Steve Castro. I'm here in favor of allowing cigar bars in Prince George's County. I'm the owner of Davida Cigars and have 12 premium cigar stores in 7 different counties throughout the state, none in Prince George's County yet. All my stores have lounges for our adult customers to enjoy our products. What I'd really like to see is the ability for premium cigar stores to have that option to sell to their customers the beverage of their choice, which I'm confident a good number would choose some type of alcoholic beverage. Not being able to do so puts my business at a huge disadvantage, especially when neighboring states allow it. As you just heard, just last year, the state of Connecticut amended their Indoor Air Act to allow for cigar bars. Even California allows it. You're losing tax dollars, you're losing jobs, you're denying your constituents something they want. I know some of you will argue that we need to protect workers. Our 80+ employees are all adults over 21. They want to work in a cigar store because they love smoking cigars. I urge you to vote in favor of Senate Bill 186 and expand cigar bars throughout the state. Thank you for your time.
Senator Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a question for the bill sponsor. If I could. So, yes, sir. Yes, thank you, Senator, for the bill. So several folks from your county say, hey, Senator Ellis, you're on the Finance Committee here, liquor bills. We don't want any more liquor, anything in Prince George's County. Please vote everything down. And I tell them about local courtesy, right? If you come and say you want it. But even yesterday, we had a hearing about cannabis with someone, I think a county council person came and testify of her concern of all the liquor availability in Prince George's County. And so do you think whether the previous bill or this bill, well, address this bill, having more alcohol available to another facility, well, how should I answer your constituents when they say, hey, why did you vote for that bill? Because you were supposed to.
Oh, you just tell them you're listening to Senator Watson. That's all you do. No, seriously, to answer your question, we have to get past the mindset and it's a clear acknowledgement that for most industries, when you add the ability to purchase additional things, those businesses survive. The interesting thing is for some of the cigar lounges, when we went through the period of the pandemic, they were allowed to stay afloat because they could all package goods. If you recall, that's what we did for anybody who had a license. Those who did not have that struggled. They struggled. And what I've tried to educate folks on, those who don't smoke cigars, it's almost an art. It's like when you go and have a steak, what kind of wine do you pair it with? The same thing goes with cigars, premium cigars. And some of the establishments, the biggest cigar lounge and the most popular in the world, one is in Oslo. New York City has one of the largest, but they are huge and they're glamorous and gorgeous, where they attract high-end clientele. And so this is not a hookah spot. This does not sell Swisher Sweets or any low-end tobaccos. This is a very nuanced thing and it's very different. And so the bill, to your point, was voted out of the House delegation today. We have a letter from the Prince George's delegation in support. We'll be taking it up with the Senate delegation this week, at which time I hope to provide all of those letters to this committee to seek a favorable support.
Yeah, thank you. My concern was just about what your constituents reach out to me for, is about the liquor part and availability of the liquor, not the cigar lounge part. So, I mean, my answer to them also always is, well, your delegation supported, so as a local courtesy, I support that. So anyway, I just want to mention that to you.
And I appreciate you having Invictus Tinderbox and Privilege in your county.
Yes.
I have frequented them many times.
And we do not want the competition.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Washington.
That's not good. Thank you, Madam Chair. And just a couple questions for you. So there's 0 in Prince George's County right now, right? 0 of these cigar lounges?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay. And Senator Watson brings up some really good points about wanting them to be in Prince George's County because they are not, and they're not in Prince George's County, but there are other places in the state. And that's a good point. But then the argument is that we want to have high-end cigar lounges. Under this bill, how do we ensure that they are high-end? What does that mean? Like, how do we define that? To ensure that they are
I think the best way to
high-end?
do it is to classify it under the premium cigar lounge, right now as it is, where 70% of our sales have to be premium cigars or pipe tobacco.
Okay.
And you define premium cigars as that high end, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, $100 cigar. You're not going to see Swisher Sweets or Backwoods or anything like that in those stores. You're going to see the high end cigars that.
So that would guarantee a high-end quality store that's really nice looking, high-end place. Is that right? That would do it for you.
Yes.
And then he also mentioned something about minority businesses, because in his bill is only 4 of them, only 4 licenses. How do we ensure that there's minority participation in those 4 licenses?
Yeah, I think through the procurement process, should this bill pass, and through the licensing regulation process, we'd certainly be willing to work with this committee to ensure, the best minority representation possible in the ownership of these groups.
So adding more amendments to make sure that there are minority participation.
As always, willing to work with the committee, to come up with the best product possible.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Classmeyer.
Yeah, I just have, can you smoke cigarettes in there?
The question was, can you smoke cigarettes in there? The concept for that is no. An emphatic no. We're looking at other tobacco products, which does not include cigarettes.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Castro, did I understand you say you already own 12 of these premium cigar stores?
I own 12 premium cigar stores right now, and none of them have liquor licenses. I'm
Okay.
in 7 different counties, Baltimore City. And I have not, the only county where I probably could apply for a liquor license would be Anne Arundel, which are allowing, very
Oh, we know.
limited amounts. And I have not done that yet. And that is one of my bigger stores in Annapolis is probably well suited for a liquor license, but I just haven't done it yet.
Are you in Annapolis City or just in the?
I'm right next to the mall, right across the street
Okay.
from the mall.
So in Anne Arundel, the way they've allowed these cigar lounges is they consider the alcohol accessory. So
Right.
it's a 70-30.
Mhm.
And they're auditing that annually to make sure that the alcohol is only 30%.
And I'm well aware of that. And another part of that would be the accessories we do sell, which are cutters, lighters, humidors. And that takes up a big chunk. So that would leave not much left for me for alcohol. So it'd be very tough to monitor, which is why I haven't personally
Yeah.
gotten the license. I just want the availability there if it does come up. So that if I do decide, okay, yeah, we are gonna cut back on those sort of things, but it would be very tough to monitor that. And I think it would be very, very tough to enforce that.
Well, restaurants have to prove that they have more food sales than alcohol sales. So there are ways, obviously, to audit that and enforce that. But I was in the House when this bill was passed, and I remember accessories as being those other items you talked about, the incidental sales of accessories like cutters and whatever, pipes and, all those things. And so somehow accessory has now been defined as alcohol, and that was, I can tell you, was never the intention of the law. I was there when the law was passed. It was
Well,
never the intention.
there's always ways to get around it, and there's a number of locations or locales that are.
That's like the guy that
Well-
beat the audit. Do you remember that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think incidental has been the key term in here, and I can't speak for the liquor boards, but I think that's what many of them may have looked to.
Yeah. I know Anne Arundel County is now auditing for that 30%. So we'll see what happens, but thank you for your testimony. We have some unfavorables we're going to go to next. Laura Hale, Lance Kilpatrick, Dana Moncrief, Clifford Mitchell, and Melvin Thompson, and Ramey Eck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's enough seats. Okay, if everyone take a seat, please. Who would like to start?
All righty. Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Laura Hale. I'm the Director of Government Relations with the American Heart Association. Thank you all so much for your time on this important issue. The Heart Association stands in strong our opinion that incidental is not, alcohol is not an incidental expense. And also to that, any spaces that are currently selling and having indoor alcohol and are currently using indoor smoking are not in compliance with the Clean Indoor Air Act. And it's something that we've been continuing to try and reinforce. So we ask for an unfavorable report on this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Melvin Thompson. I represent the Restaurant Association of Maryland, and we're also opposing this legislation. And for our organization, this is an issue of fairness and a level playing field. A lot of our restaurant bars accommodated smoking customers before the smoking ban took effect in 2008, and the state law prohibits the sale of alcohol and smoking together. And so what this bill proposes to do is to allow alcohol to be sold in places that currently can enjoy the retail tobacco business exemption. We think that's unfair, and we don't normally take positions on local alcohol bills, but in this particular case, we think this legislation establishes a statewide precedent with which we disagree, and for those reasons, we request an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Melvin. Who's next?
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Amy Eck. I'm with the Maryland Public Health Association, our Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Network. We are also here in opposition for all the reasons that the people here at the table are going to say. The only thing I'm going to add is that there's a lot of focus on tobacco. However, I'd just like to mention the alcohol piece here too, is that alcohol and tobacco independently cause cancer. However, while there are a number of cancers that are caused by both substances, cancers of the mouth and throat are especially pertinent as the effect of both is multiplicative, not additive. So people who are users of both may have up to a 300 time increase in the risk of developing cancer. So I'd just like to add that for your consideration. Thank you.
You, who would like to go next?
Lance Kilpatrick, for the record, I am the Maryland Government Relations Director for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. And you have our testimony in your file, which was signed not just by us, but also by my friends of the American Heart Association, the American Lung Association, the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, and the Maryland DC Society of Addiction Medicine, all in strong opposition to this legislation. This legislation punches a huge hole into the Clean Indoor Air Act. And as you've heard, it was never the intent for something like this to be allowed going forward. We know that secondhand smoke increases the risk of cancer. We also know, based upon two separate U.S. Surgeon General reports, one from a Republican administration and one from a Democratic administration, that regardless of air filters and separate rooms and ventilators, you still don't completely eliminate secondhand smoke. It still is there. The only way to do that is to not have it, period. Okay. And now, while my friend who supports this legislation said that all 80 of his employees apparently smoke cigars, which I find a little bit hard to believe, fact of the matter is that somebody may actually work there that doesn't smoke cigars. And yet, if they're working there, they are going to be connected with that smoke in a way that is not going to be good. If this were to pass, how could we say no to other counties, right? This committee, in its wisdom, told Wicomico County's representatives, no, we're not going to let you do this. And yet now Prince George's County is asking for this to go forward. Don't roll back the gains that we've made. We've come too far. We need to continue protecting Marylanders from secondhand smoke, and we strongly oppose this and request the committee to oppose it as well. Thank you.
Chair Beidel, Vice Chair Klaus Meyer, members of the committee. I'm Dr. Clifford Mitchell here on behalf of the Department of Health in respectful opposition to Senate Bill 186. You've already heard most of the reasons that we believe that this is not a well-constructed bill. I just want to come to the last point that was made. I had the privilege of helping to write and enforce the regulations that were put in place in 2007 and 8 when the Clean Indoor Air Act was passed. And I do want to say the department has maintained consistently that the tobacco exemption, the tobacco retailers exemption that is in the bill was clear And the department has clearly applied a uniform standard with respect to incidental sales that it has applied over the years. And I do believe that, as was just mentioned, allowing this specific exemption to the basic heart of the Clean Indoor Air Act would in fact be an open invitation for every other jurisdiction in the state to ask for and receive such an exemption. So with that, I just want to thank the committee for the many, many years of support for the Clean Indoor Air Act and the efforts to improve the health and well-being of the people and the workers of Maryland.
And I think finally, Dana.
Good morning, Senator Bido and Commission or Council. I'm Dana Moncrief. I'm the Director for the Center for Tobacco Prevention and Control in opposition of SB 186. I won't add too much to what the panel has already said, but I do want to also reiterate, having spaces where smoking is prohibited does reinforce non-smoking norms and protects the progress that we have made on tobacco product use among Maryland youth. So thank you.
Thank you. I guess I have a question. We're going to have two virtual testimonies, but I guess, Dr. Mitchell, what does the health department do to enforce the Clean Air Act? What's your position on that?
Thank you, Senator. We have a system in which if a complaint is received by a local health department, the local health department will go out and investigate. If it finds a violation of the Clean Indoor Air Act, it will issue initially a letter of violation, which has no financial penalty associated with it. And then progressively, if it finds additional subsequent violations, it will continue to issue financial penalties as authorized in the statute. I would point out that for the most part, this is a process which requires a complaint to be issued to the local health department.
Thank you for that. Do I have any other questions, Senator Guile?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So for the existing cigar stores that are selling alcohol, have any violations been issued to those throughout the state?
I am unaware of any such violations that have been issued, but I can't tell you why. If there have been no complaints registered, then they may not have been investigated. I've not heard of any being investigated.
Okay, but the department is aware that they're continuing to operate.
The department has been made aware. The local health department I can't speak to, but we have become aware of this as a result of these proceedings.
Is there any intent to do anything about it?
I'm not sure I can telegraph that ahead of time.
All right.
But I should be judicious.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, my question for you was similar to Senator Gow's, which is how these companies, how are they able to get through the Clean Indoor Air Act? Like what was is this the first bill to allow that at the state level?
So this is not the first such bill. Prince George's County actually had a bill previously. Wicomico County has had a bill previously.
Well, that has passed.
That has passed? No. There have been, the department has consistently opposed the idea of amending the Clean Indoor Air Act itself, in part because the tobacco retailer exemption was in fact put in place and has in fact, to our knowledge, been successful in terms of restricting smoking to those establishments which have the primary purpose of being a tobacco retailer, and the sale of all other products is incidental, non-tobacco related products.
The chair mentioned that in her district that there was a cannabis shop that they thought that the inspectors thought was illegally being run, but they were able to shut it down immediately because they were illegally run. Why can't you do that? What powers are preventing you from doing that?
So I can't speak to the specifics of the cannabis legislation. We do not, in the Clean Indoor Air Act, have the authority to shut a business down. We can find a violation. We can issue letters of violation and continue to issue financial penalties. For the most part, I would say the success and genius of the Clean Indoor Air Act and the legislature, I will just say, is that That hasn't had to happen because when the Clean Indoor Air Act was implemented, the norm was that people complied. And although we issued over the entire course of the Clean Indoor Air Act, I think we've issued something along the lines of maybe a dozen findings of violation, maybe. It has been very successful because of the norms that were established.
And why haven't you asked for that permission to do that? A lot of departments ask for the ability to have more violations or more inspection power or more ability to shut down businesses. How come you haven't asked for that yet?
Well, I would just note in general, first of all, we are dealing with the piece of legislation that was written by the legislature, so we use those powers. In general, Health General doesn't have a lot of places where we shut things down in the regulatory sphere. Mostly our enforcement is based on abatement powers rather than simply shutting places down. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Next, I have Senator Reedy.
Yeah, just very briefly, I feel like we had a conversation about this last year, but I'm just curious, what is the difference between what this bill is asking to do? And this, I know I'm supposed to direct to somebody on the panel, but I toured a casino recently, just at their request, because there's a lot of legislation pending, and there's an outdoor space that's sort of outdoors. There's an outdoor space that allows for cigar smoking. And then I assume people can have drinks while they're out there. But it doesn't have to really be, it's not enclosed, but it's, and what's the difference here? Why are we getting to this level of, I guess my question about the reason I'm sympathetic to a bill like this is I don't actually smoke cigars or really drink, but we have this situation where why can't a almost private club or an exclusive place have a high-end product and then have drinks? And even if you just want to have them drink the drink and smoke the cigar in a place that's mostly out, partly outdoors, it's different than people being forced to work in any restaurant or any bar when they all had to smoke, when they all could allow smoking. That was a different, more coercive employment as opposed to something very high-end and exclusive. So I don't know if anybody could answer that question for me from a philosophical standpoint. I know some of the philosophy is, some of you probably on this panel don't think we should have any smoking indoors ever, which if that's your position, I respect that. But can somebody help me understand why we have this thing? I guess I don't understand.
Senator Alas, I can probably answer that because I was probably responsible for it.
Okay.
So Lauren, if that's okay.
That's fine.
So the definition of the indoor area open to the public is one that we spent a lot of time on in the regulations. And I will say that the solution that we hit on is basically, think of a bus stop. The bus stop has 3 sides that are enclosed and 1 side that is open. And although I can quote you the longer definition, I will just basically tell you what we chose to do based on the legislature's direction was to adopt a regulatory definition that is 1 side is completely open and can't be enclosed, and the other sides can be. And if that is the space that you're dealing with, that is not an indoor area open to the public.
Okay, so why couldn't that be something that can any place do that now?
So we had a large number of places that had open decks, that had partially enclosed decks, that had partially enclosed decks with a tarp that came down on the 4th side. And we did not allow the ones that had a tarp coming down on the 4th side because the definition was you couldn't enclose that 3rd side, that 4th side. But under those circumstances, I actually physically inspected many of those around the state and said, yep, this is an indoor area open to the public. The one that you saw, if it's the one I'm thinking of, did have a knee wall, and we were very careful about making sure that we just didn't have an open area where people would just pitch over the end edge, because we thought that would be not a promising way to.
And I didn't do any measurements, so I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. I'm just saying,
if you saw a low wall there, the low wall is to make sure that the building codes were observed and that we did not have people pitching over the end. But that is the reason that those are.
And I guess that part of the issue with why people want a license to allow cigars, most of these cigar places may already exist and they're already enclosed facilities. But I guess I understand. I won't delay this any longer. there's something about this always bothers me when we've had this discussion, but I appreciate the answers and thank you very much.
Senator Reedy, thank you. Senator Lamb.
Yeah, just one quick follow-up, because I know we've had this discussion before, and just the inconsistencies here where it looks like counties like Prince George's and Wacomico counties are saying you can't do this, but then we have no enforcement here in Anne Arundel County. You know, suggestions on how best to address this, because I think, you know, there's certainly a desire to look at how this can be clarified across the board. It's not really ideal to have kind of helter-skelter you know, enforcement or definitions that are going across the board, and interpretations, I guess, of definitions.
So Senator, thank you for that. And there may be others who wish to speak to that. What I will say is we've been fairly clear about what the state views as the definition of incidental, although it has not been in statute and it was not put in statute. So given that hand that we were dealt, we have still been very clear that a place that started off as a bar and then asked to be a cigar bar because it was vending cigars, we felt was inconsistent with the idea because it met neither the criterion that it was the primary purpose was the retail sale of tobacco or tobacco related products. And there's no way that it would meet the definition of incidental under anybody's common sense rule. And we've applied that whether we're talking about alcohol or food. In both cases, we've said that's not what this is. As to enforcement between counties or the action of liquor boards, I can't comment on what an individual county decides to do. I will say that I think that the health departments have been generally very good. Baltimore City is the only jurisdiction because of home rule that has actually adopted a statutory definition, an ordinance of 25% for incidental, but that's the only jurisdiction I'm aware of that has adopted a definition.
I guess I'm just trying to square this circle when, you know, I guess on one hand, it seems like the definition is clear of incidental, at least the way that the department is looking at it, but then there's been zero enforcement over the past year based on some responses to earlier questions. And so how, you know, I guess maybe then the General Assembly ought to step in and provide a clear definition of incentive.
And the Heart Association would say as well that we are happy to work around, one, defining that, and two, giving more authority to the department or others who would be most appropriate to continue with proper enforcement of this. There seems to be some places that need stronger connections as this is continuing to be figured out.
I'd like to weigh in just a minute. We're going to move on. But Senator Lamb, in Anne Arundel, the liquor board issued licenses based on a 70-30, and they are now enforcing it. Our issue is alcohol incidental, and that's how Anne Arundel did it. These other counties are coming in and asking permission, but the liquor board in Anne Arundel did this on their own. So that's what happened here. Thank you, everyone, for your testimony. That ends the hearing.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm sorry, I have two virtuals, but you all can leave.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
The two virtuals are Blair Innes and Alex Casper, and they're both unfavorable. You go ahead, just unmute, please.
Hi, I can start. Hi, my name is Blair Innes. I'm the Deputy Director of the Legal Resource Center for Public Health Policy here today, testifying in opposition to this bill. I agree with everything that I've been hearing so far. The only other thing that I would add is that there's no reason to weaken a strong public health law by allowing this exception to the Clean Indoor Air Act. It's been around for almost 2 decades. And there hasn't been any damage done by the law. So that is, for that reason, I strongly urge an unfavorable report on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. Alex?
My name is Alex Casper. I'm the Director of Advocacy for the American Lung Association. You heard my colleagues. I'll echo their comments in saying we are deeply concerned about this piece of legislation and encourage an unfavorable report for all the reasons that you have heard around undermining the strong Clean Indoor Air Act and, you know, the ventilation concerns around people who are exposed to secondhand smoke, not only in the buildings themselves, but in, you know, neighboring buildings and adjacent buildings. And so none of that is safe. It all presents risk. And for that, we request an unfavorable report.
Thank you both for your testimony. There are no questions, and that ends the hearing on this bill. Thank you. Senator Motz, I understand your county executive is here. would you like to bring her up? And you have another witness, Bunky Luffman. Would you like to bring them up?
Thank you. Going down, here we go. Thank you, Madam Chair and distinguished members. Since Wacomico County got so much mention in the previous bill, it's very fitting that we would follow. It's an honor to present Senate Bill 941 today. This is a bill that has the endorsement of the local county. We've got a county or delegation letter of support. The legislation, Senate Bill 941, would allow for the creation of a distillery license, the standard distillery license that operates throughout the state of Maryland. We do not, currently, there is not one of these licenses in Wacomico County. Wacomico County and Montgomery County are the last two counties to have a dispensary system in the county, which adds a lot of verbiage to our bill. However, our bill clears that up and establishes just a simple license for a distillery. And I urge your favorable support. It's my honor to introduce our esteemed county executive, Julie Giordano. Julie.
Good day, or I guess it's still morning. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. For the record, I'm Julie Giordano. I'm the county executive in Wacomico County. So thank you, Senator Mounts, for sponsoring this bill. Yes, so Wacomico County is one of two counties that still has a dispensary system. It's actually hindering our county a lot. This bill actually will allow distilleries not only to open in Wacomico County, but they will be able to distribute their own products. So that's kind of the holdup here. With us having a monopoly in Wacomico County, if a distillery was to open, distill their own products, they would not be able to sell it directly to a consumer. They would have to sell it to the dispensary system and then buy it back at a potential 15% increase. So this bill eliminates that. It's a big economic driver for my county, and we hope that for a favorable report.
Thank you. And Mr. Luffman?
Hi, my name is Bunky Luffman. I'm Director of Administration for Wacomico. Some of you may remember me when I was Legislative Director for DNR a couple of years ago. But I know you have a lot of bills, and so I am going to forego my testimony and just say I will answer any questions along with the executive.
Do I have any questions on this bill? I see no questions. Thank you, Senator. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 941.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Senator Gallion? You what? All right, let's give him a second. Senator Gallion? It's gonna miss his chance. Yeah. Senator Gallion, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
You want to start with Senate Bill 734, and you have someone, Adam Rudzinski, with you? Is Adam with you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So this is Senate Bill 734.
Sure. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and Finance Committee members. For the record, Senator Jason Gallion here on behalf of the Harford County Senators to introduce Senate Bill 734, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages Performing Arts Nonprofit Organization License. This bill would create a performing arts nonprofit organization beer, wine, and liquor license. Since this organization does not have a brick and mortar location, the Harford County Liquor Board has agreed to allow for 3 locations to be designated at a time of license application by the organization to sell beer, wine, and liquor. The locations must be suitable for the production of plays, acts, dramas, concerts, or similar events. I'd like to add that these events are capped at 750 tickets in the bill and is not intended for large crowds. I believe most of the crowds are in the 50 to 100 person range. This bill originated from a local arts collective having to constantly go in front of the board and get one-day licenses. The Liquor Board has worked with this collective and agreed to this solution. There is one amendment that conforms this to the House cross file and adds record keeping and reporting requirements. I respectfully ask the committee for a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Adam Rybczynski here on behalf of the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace. Just for a little background, the city owns 2 of these facilities that would be utilized under this amendment. We are in full support of this bill and we ask for a favorable report.
Do I have any questions? We did this last year for Maryland Hall, so it's a good idea. Thank you, Senator. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 734. Now we have Senate Bill 735 for Harford County Senators and Senator Gallion.
Sure. Good afternoon again, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, still Senator Jason Gallion for the record. Harford County Alcoholic Beverages Class L License SB 735. This bill with proposed amendments would establish a Class L beer and wine license in Harford County. This would allow holders of a manufacturer's license, breweries and wineries to sell beer and wine produced by the holder of another manufacturer's license in the county. For example, if you and your spouse went out to a brewery and one of the other of you isn't a beer drinker, you'd have the option to possibly purchase wine that's also manufactured in Harford County. The license holder would be required to retain for 2 years after the date of purchase invoices and any records of the purchase of any alcoholic beverage product not manufactured by the license holder. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And Adam, would you like to comment again?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Adam Rybczynski again, on behalf of the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace. We support SB 735. We have 3 local businesses that would benefit if this legislation was passed, and we urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Do I have any questions for this panel? So gentlemen, you can leave the table for a moment. Don't go anywhere, Senator Gallion, but you have 3 unfavorables we're going to hear from. Nick Manis, Steve Wise, and Jack Milani. Yes.
Still good morning, members of the committee. Steve Wise on behalf of the Maryland State Licensed Beverage Association, which is the retail association in the alcoholic beverage industry. To understand our opposition to this bill, and this bill has come up from various jurisdictions in the past, I think it's best to do just a short history lesson. As the 3-tier system was established, we have manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers, and none is supposed to have an interest in the other tier. If you're a manufacturer, you're not supposed to have wholesale interest or retail interest. That line has been blurred over the years. And going back to the say 2015, 2016, you'll remember when Guinness Brewery was coming to the state, there was an effort to have tap rooms associated with breweries. And our industry, the retail side, wasn't particularly fond of that, but it happened. And at the time, that was sold as a way for breweries to have a way to market their product when people came to visit the brewery. At that time, it was said, hey, we have no interest in being bars. We just want to serve our own products. And a rising tide will float all boats because people will come here to our manufacturing facility and then they'll come to your stores and your bars and your restaurants to drink our product once they've sampled it. Well, here we are. No surprise to us, frankly. We have a bill that proposes to make every manufacturing facility in Harford County a bar because they will be able to serve not just the beer that they make, but in this case, wine that's made at another facility in the county. So this has come in many shapes and forms, but we've opposed it at every turn. This is not singling out Harford County here, but we think it's a statewide precedent that you should not adopt. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Nick Manis representing the Maryland Beer Wholesalers Association. And there are 3 types of brewery license you can obtain. One is a pub brewery license, which I think there's 1 in the state. One is a microbrewery license, a Class 7, and the other is a production brewery. So a Class 7 brewery license, you can sell other people's products. It's basically a tavern that can, and a bar, and you can manufacture on site, you can sell off site, and you can sell other people's products. This would allow production breweries, which are strictly manufacturers of beer, not to be a restaurant, to be able to turn in, as Mr. Wise said, a full-fledged bar. And for those reasons, we oppose this legislation. They could go back and get a Class 7 that has some limited production limits on it, but that was their choosing when they went for the license initially. So for those reasons, we oppose this legislation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, Jack Malani, Legislative Co-Chair, MSLBA, also a retailer. I used to tell the story when Guinness first got their tap room and tasting room or tap room. I coached lacrosse and run a lot of lacrosse leagues, and I found that some of the coaches, the younger ones that I was mentoring, were like, "Hey, after our games on Friday, meet us down at Guinness." I said, "Guys, you're killing me. I'm in the retail business. That shouldn't be your like night out. That should be going down there to try something or what have you." And what I found was when I did go down, it turned into a full-fledged, it was an entertainment center, which really wasn't how it was sold. But hey, look, I got over it. But I do think at some point in time, we got to have that line drawn. If you're doing it for your own products, I'm all for it. Promote it. I hope you do well. It's a Maryland business. But I do think if you want to go to a place that has more than that product, that's what the retail community is for, the pubs and the bars. I mean, that's why we are what we are. So we just think, you guys have provided a tremendous opportunity for these folks to have people try their products and even hang out there all night. We're just asking that you let the bars still be the bars and let whether it be the brewery, a winery or distillery, let that be for their products only. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have questions? I have one, if you don't mind, Mr. Manis. Go back and what you first talked about, the different licenses that would each brewery is allowed. Please.
So Class 6 is a pub brewery. There's, I think, only one of those now, but originally that's where a lot of people started. And I think they can do, I'm guessing 3,000 barrels a year. Then it goes to a Class 7, which is a microbrewery, like Ram's Head used to be, when they produce their beer, and you can sell other people's products and also the products that you manufacture on site. And you can also self-distribute and sell for off-premise. Then you have a Class 5, which is strictly a manufacturer's license. And that's where you allowed them to have a tasting room where someone could come and taste the product, but then they would have to then have their product either at a retailer or other restaurants for off sale. Thank you.
That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 735. Senator Gallion, your next bill is 736.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, committee members. Once again, for the record, Senator Jason Gallion on behalf of the Harford County Senators to introduce Senate Bill 736, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages Licenses Golf Simulator Facility. This bill allows for a golf simulator facility license to sell beer, wine, and liquor if the facility has at least 5 simulator bays and has accommodations that are predominantly dedicated to golf simulator bays and seating dedicated to those bays. This legislation is modeled after Frederick County, who passed similar legislation, and I respectfully ask the committee for a favorable report on SB 736.
We have no questions on Senate Bill 736. That was easy. And your final bill is Senate Bill 933. And Senator, even though these say Harford County Senators, we still need a letter that that the senators have all voted and they're in favor.
Yeah, I have.
Majority is in favor. You have it?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Are you going that one too? Okay, thanks, Adam. Good afternoon again, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, committee members. For the record, Senator Gallion on behalf of the Harford County Senators. This time introducing Senate Bill 933, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages Performing Arts Theater License. This is a cleanup bill from last year that the committee passed. The bill established a nonprofit performing arts theater license. Unfortunately, this legislation was not workable for the nonprofit due to not having a brick and mortar location. This legislation will alter the nonprofit to a for-profit license and add liquor in addition to beer and wine. There is one amendment that conforms the bill to the House version that removes language that no longer applies. I respectfully ask the committee for a favorable report on Senate Bill 933.
Adam?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Adam Ripchinsky on behalf of the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace. We support SB 933. We have one business in our community that could utilize such a license, but we're always trying to attract more. We urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any questions on Senator Ellis?
Quick, Senator Gallant, are you saying this performing arts theater is no longer nonprofits, are for profit now, and they will have the license?
You want to? So the nonprofit organization is still a nonprofit organization. It would just extend it and enable for-profit organizations to acquire such a license.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Senator, I don't see any other questions. That ends the hearing on 933 and all the Harford County bills. Thank you,
That's
Senator. Senator Hayes. And I understand, Senator, you're also going to present Senator Carter's bill.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, is there any order you prefer to go in? Can I start with Senate Bill 922?
You can start wherever you like.
You're fantastic. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of Senate Finance, Senator Antonio Hayes, representing the 40th Legislative District in Baltimore City. I present to you Senate Bill 22. This bill changes the appointment to the Baltimore City Liquor Board of Commissioners from the mayor and city council president to the governor and confirmation by the Senate. There is an amendment to this piece of legislation. It will be circulated prior to voting on the bill is amendment 1238241. This amendment simply says that the deputy director for the Board of Liquor Commissioners, currently they have to be a city resident. We're saying they have to be a city resident or have served in Baltimore City government for a minimum of 5 years immediately preceding their appointment. With that, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee, I urge a favorable report with the amendment. I will tell you, I've talked to committee staff. We do have a delegation letter in support of this bill and the amendment. The bill passed with 3 votes. I mean, the bill passed 3-4, 3-1. 3-1. Yeah, 3-1. One of we're not that big of a delegation. The only one being absent was Mary Washington, but the opposition was based off of the amendment to the bill, not necessarily the bill. We may see another amendment, so we want to hold on to it, hold on to this bill until we see the other amendment coming. But with that, Madam Chair, I conclude.
Do you have two people that are here with you?
Do
Nigel
I?
Saunders
Who is it?
and Nina Themlis.
Yeah, but I don't think we're on the same page. Nina represent the mayor's office. She could come up. Is Nina here, Mr. Deputy Mayor? Yeah. So I'd like to come over there. I might have some questions for Nina.
And how about, so Nina, you're here. How about Najee Saunders? Okay. All right, Nina.
All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Nina Themlis. I serve as the Director of Government Relations for Mayor Scott, here to testify on behalf of the Baltimore City Administration for Senate Bill 22. The Liquor Board Appointment Authority was changed back in 2016. The previous appointment authority was the governor's authority, as this bill is looking to revert back to. That authority was changed in 2016 due to an audit from the Office of Legislative Audits in 2013, which outlined 24 different parameters where the liquor board was insufficient. A subsequent report in 2016 identified 18 additional findings where the liquor board was insufficient. In 2020, following the appointment authority change, 16 of the 17 findings from that 2016 report had been resolved. So this bill, on behalf of the city administration, seems like a solution in search of a problem. 12 jurisdictions in the state have appointments made by the governor, 12 do not. There is no one size fits all template for a liquor board appointment process. Of Baltimore City and six nearby jurisdictions, only one, Anne Arundel County, requires the governor to make appointments to its liquor board. Of the 10 most populous jurisdictions in the state, only 2 require appointment by the governor. Rather than going back to the old model, we should be continuing with what is working, allowing local leadership to appoint members of the liquor licensing board for their own jurisdiction and having those members confirmed by the Senate. So the Baltimore City Administration does not support the legislation in its current form, but would support amendments that would include an additional layer of input or feedback by the Baltimore City delegation, similar to a separate statute in existing law. And so for those reasons, the Baltimore City Administration supports with amendments SB 22, but not the amendments as currently provided by the sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nina, was this bill supported by the Baltimore City Senate delegation?
This morning, yes, they did vote to approve it.
Did you provide the same testimony to the Baltimore City Senate delegation?
Last Friday, we did submit a letter of testimony that did include the same details, yes.
Did Senator Hayes vote for this piece of legislation as amended?
Yes, he did.
Did Senator Carter vote for this bill as amended?
I believe you know the answer to that, but yes, they did.
Did Senator Ferguson vote for this bill as amended?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I guess we're gonna do the amendments. Senator Hayes, thank you. Do you want to do Senate Bill 904?
Yes, ma'am.
So that ended the hearing on Senate Bill 22, and now we're gonna do Senate Bill 904.
Excellent. Senator 904, this one would do, oh, we're back in Kumbaya. Come on up, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Senate Bill 904. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Senator Antonio Hayes, representing the 40th Legislative District in Baltimore City. In Baltimore City, generally a food establishment selling alcoholic beverages can apply for a Baltimore City Liquor Board to obtain a Class B license, which is essentially a restaurant license, beer, wine, and liquor license, provided if it satisfies certain threshold requirements for minimal seating, capital investments, food sales. If a prospective food establishment cannot satisfy these requirements, the only way they could obtain a license is if they buy an existing Class D or BD7 license from an existing establishment within the same Senate district and then apply to the Liquor Board for approval of the transfer and location of ownership. Costs of the license are vary based on the supply and demand. In the 46th legislative district alone, these licenses can cost up to $150,000, which is a large upfront cost for a new restaurant. And so this bill simply look to address that and minimizing some of the thresholds or barriers to opening up restaurant licenses in the city of Baltimore. So with me, I'm joined at the podium by Deputy Mayor Williams, as well as a member of the Baltimore City Liquor Board of Commissioners, Michelle Wurzberger, the Deputy Director.
Deputy Mayor, would you like to go next?
Yep, good afternoon, Committee and Madam Chair. For the record, Justin Williams, Deputy Mayor for Community and Economic Development. We have appointed the committee to written testimony that's in the file. Just to add to what Senator Hayes had mentioned, this comes out of the mayor's downtown action plan, referred to as Downtown Rise, or focusing on the future of downtown while the office market is going some changes and while we're waiting for Harbor Place to be redeveloped. This legislation will allow us to fill vacant storefronts more easily because, as Senator Hayes said, the threshold requirement for seating in a restaurant in this part of the city is either 75 seats, in some portions even 150 seats. And there's a high capital threshold, which is hard to meet for any restaurateur, but especially the ones that aren't the national chains. And so our vision here is to make it easier to fill vacant storefronts for just vibrancy for the community, but also for job creation and to help promote vibrant downtown. And with that, I'll submit.
You and Michelle.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Michelle Wurzberger. I'm the Deputy Executive Secretary for the Baltimore City Liquor Board. Both of these gentlemen, I think, hit all of the high points. You've been here for a really long time. I will say that the board supports this bill and respectfully requests a favorable report. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And Michelle, we've not been here for a long time. Last night we were here for a long
Yeah,
time.
that's right.
Fair enough. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's it.
Do I have any questions for this panel? Your virtual person is not there, so
Okay.
that ends the hearing on Senate Bill 904.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next, on behalf of the delegation and Senator Carter, I'd like to present Senate Bill 895. This bill is proposed by the administration, the city of Baltimore, would increase various licenses that the Baltimore City Liquor Board of Commissioners is responsible for. The enhanced fees would increase the board's annual revenue by at least $823,185. This increased revenue would allow up to 4 new liquor inspectors to be hired, with approximately 1,200 licenses throughout Baltimore City. Enforcement of applicable laws, rules, and MOUs is a sizable and significant task. Employing additional inspectors would enable the agency to better ensure that all licenses are operating in a way that is respectful of the communities in which they're located. I urge this committee to issue a favorable report for Senate Bill 895.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. For the record, Justin Williams, Deputy Mayor for
Hold it
Community.
closer.
Deputy Mayor for Community Economic Development. Administration supports this legislation. I came in early this morning and as the committee was considering legislation that's similar in Anne Arundel County. We are doing the same review. It's been at least 15 years since the fees have been increased. In some cases, since 2001, that fees haven't been increased. And we have a study that's in the board's file that was conducted by our Department of Finance, which compares our fees to the other 6 jurisdictions around the 95 corridor, and we're average or lower than the other jurisdictions. The liquor board and city staff have worked well in the past couple of years, and I'll shout out the former Deputy Secretary Tom Akris with the Social Club Task Force. All the work's been done there, so the city has an interest in making sure we have enough inspectors to cover the full city. And with that, we urge favorable support.
Thank you.
Favorable
And Michelle?
recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. Again, for the record, my name is Michelle Wurzberger. I'm the Deputy Executive Secretary for the Baltimore City Liquor Board. You should have my written testimony in your packet. Bottom line is, very quickly, these additional revenues will allow us to hire additional inspectors that are already, they're fabulous. They already do a ton of work. They engage in special investigations and human trafficking and things like that. That kind of sometimes these licensees are involved in. We think this would be this would allow us to better enforce the rules and regulations, make sure everybody's playing by those rules. Thank you, ma'am.
Do I have any questions for this panel for Senate Bill 895? I see no questions. Thank you very much. Senator, which bill would you like to do next?
Senate Bill 1008 is the last bill, Madam Chair. This is a 40th district bill. It creates 2 new licenses. One is for a municipal family fun center. This is a property that's owned by the city of Baltimore and open to the public. This allows them to have a liquor license as an additional form of revenue whenever there are, as they often do, host private events there. This bill was, although the city-owned property, this bill has enjoyed a vast variety of support, mainly from the community in which it sits, who often use this as a resource to the community. The other license is to, where's the other one? I forget what the other one. Oh, the other one is for a establishment in the Remington community, small business owner, similar to the bill that was before us that the deputy mayor sat here for. Bills are, a lot of our restaurants had the burden of having a tremendous amount of capital investment having to be put in them in order to exist. In this case, it does not, but they enjoy wide support from the community as well. And lastly, there is a request to extend the expiration date of a current license in the downtown part of the district. Madam Chair, I urge a favorable report for Senate Bill 1008.
Thank you, Senator. We have letters from their delegation for all these bills.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions for Senator Hayes? No questions. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator Klausmeyer, you want to do your two bills?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Finance Committee. I guess I will do Senate Bill 833 first, and then we'll take the other. Senate Bill 833 was drafted as a statewide bill, but I am offering an amendment to make the bill apply only to Baltimore County. The Baltimore County delegation has voted in support of this bill as amended, and the letter of support is in your bill file. In 2021, during the height of the COVID pandemic, we passed a statewide bill, House Bill 12, which allowed bars and restaurants that sell mixed drinks on site to also sell those drinks to go. For Baltimore County, this means Class B and Class D licenses. The provision in House Bill 12 ended last year. With the amendment I'm offering, Senate Bill 833 would reinstate this law for Baltimore County to allow to-go alcoholic beverages to again be sold for off-premises consumption, this time with no sunset. This would apply for pickup orders and delivery. Senate Bill 833 states that the Board of License Commissioners shall adopt regulations to implement the bill, but because the statewide bill has already been implemented, the regulations already existed and can be easily updated. Under the bill, in order to sell to-go alcoholic beverages, the establishment must already have a license that allows for the same drinks to be sold on site. Also, the alcoholic beverage must be purchased with food to go, be sealed or in a closed container, and be purchased before 11 p.m. And of course, any individual purchasing alcoholic beverages must be 21 years old and have proper ID. I thank the committee for their time and ask for your support on Senate Bill 833. And again, we had a unanimous vote in the Baltimore County delegation, and you should have the letter. So,
thank you, Senator. Do I have any questions for Senator Klausmeyer? Senator, if you want to step back, we have one unfavorable, Ramey Eck.
Good afternoon, Chair Vital and members of the committee. It's Dr. Amy Eck again from the Maryland Public Health Association. So we were actually in favor of the initial cocktails to go legislation. Well, I won't say in favor, but we did help craft some of the guardrails. We looked at it as a temporary measure. A lot of states were doing this. I work very closely with other states on such things. And so we actually had one of the stronger laws in terms of guardrails at the time. And there was a sunset put in, and there was also a requirement for a study to come from the Department of Health and the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission. So some of those things have happened and some of those have not. The study that was required from December of 2022 is still in the hands of the health department. And so while I do appreciate that this has been narrowed only to one single jurisdiction, it is something that is vastly unstudied. Unfortunately, research takes a very long time sometimes to catch up with what's going on the ground. But to move forward with something that we allowed to sunset, didn't come back next year and come back this year without even having the study that we requested in order to have some sort of information and data to move forward seems a little bit appropriate, and I wouldn't want to waste people's times if we're going to do studies and not use them to help us legislate. So, there's a little bit more information in my testimony just about delivery. It tends to increase drinking sessions that would have otherwise ended. Youth access, you're expecting a person who is not versed in checking IDs or service of alcohol to be that point of contact for the ID checking. There's no incentive for a delivery person not to deliver this and put it at their doorstep. And also the information about drink driving. The research on that is still not clear. There is some suggestions that states that had cocktails to go saw an increase in drink driving, but I will very clearly state that none of that is firm, and I wouldn't be able to tell you much more about it at this time. Thank you very much.
Do I have any questions for this witness? I see none. If there are no other questions on Senate Bill 833, that ends the hearing. Senator Klausmeyer, would you like to come back and do Senate Bill 1010?
Yes. Yeah. My panel. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 1010, Baltimore County Alcoholic Beverages Individual Storage Permits. Senate Bill 1010 requires a retailer to have written approval from the Board of License Commissioners before applying to the state ATCC Executive Director for an individual storage permit. The purpose of the legislation is to give Baltimore County Board of License Commissioners a final say on how large a store may be. We are seeing a new trend where retailers are requesting a certain size store at the public hearing at the local level, and after being approved locally, going to the state for additional space for storage. The state is not required to apply the same standard as the local board when granting these requests. This has resulted in stores increasing in size by as much as 25%. This is often done in the same building directly next to the approved location, with local board having no authority to regulate this practice. This legislation will correct this problem by making local approval a requirement prior to seeking approval at the state level. Thank you for your time, and I ask for the support of the Senate Finance.
Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, Jack Malani with MSLBA. We saw this trend and we spoke to the local liquor board, spoke with the ATCC, and added ourselves. Actually, Anne Arundel has this provision. We just added ourselves to it because we feel like if whatever you're going for, you should do it in the public hearing, and whatever the board says is what should happen. So we would ask for a favorable. Thank you.
That's not always true, Jack, but thank you. Thank you. Do I have any questions for this panel? Thank you very much. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 1010.
Now you can go.
Senator Hershey? You have two bills.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Steve Hershey to present Senate Bill 529, which is a local bill that expands the one-day beer and wine tasting license in Caroline County to be a one-day beer, wine, and liquor tasting license. The annual license fee is $50. An individual may consume beer, wine, and liquor covered by the license in quantities of up to 9 ounces of beer, 4 ounces of wine, and 2.5 ounces of liquor. You have a letter of support from both Caroline County senators, and the Caroline County commissioners asked for a favorable report.
Any questions for Senator Hershey on 529? You have no other witnesses, so that ends the hearing on Senate Bill 529. Now you have Senate Bill 531.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. For the record, Senator Steve Hershey present Senate Bill 531, which is a local bill that establishes a barbershop and beauty salon beer and wine alcoholic beverage license in Caroline County. Under this bill, a license holder may provide up to 12 ounces of beer and 5 ounces or 5 ounces of wine by the glass for on-premise consumption only while performing the activities related to barbershops and beauty salons. You have a letter of support from both Caroline County senators and the Caroline County commissioners. I ask for favorable consideration of Senate Bill 531.
I see no questions. Oh, no, I do have a question, Senator Kyle.
I just got one question. Because I've been to nail salons before where they give you a glass of wine. So are they, is this for sale? Are they buying it, or is that what's going on here?
generally, as I understand it, is not for sale. It is
Okay.
complimentary.
Okay, where are these places? It's all, thank you, Madam Chair.
I
We
might go get a,
Do have the same law in Anne Arundel.
yes, I might go get a haircut this afternoon and enjoy a beverage while I'm sitting there. So
Senator, that ends the hearing on Senate
Thank you
Bill
very
five thirty-one. Oh, Senator Kramer.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
let me get back in here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to point out, colleagues, that I have seen every one of these barber shop and beauty shop licenses since the very first one was introduced years ago. My concern has always been the same, that if a business like a barber shop or beauty shop cannot function and survive on the merits of the product they provide, like good haircuts and good hairstyles, then we should not be supplementing their availability to survive with alcohol. And we have always, and this is going to come back up again shortly, there's a direct correlation between availability of alcohol and issues like drunk driving, and the notion that we will be providing alcohol to people coming in, sitting down for a haircut or have their nails done, and then there's only one likely way they're getting there short of Uber or a cab. They'll be getting into a car and getting out on our roadways, having consumed alcohol, because evidently the barbershop or hair salon, the product they're providing isn't going to be bringing customers in because of the quality of their work, but because they've got alcohol there. So, Madam Chair, that's all I've got to say. Senator, I have voted against every one of these bills. Everyone has passed. But when you see my opposition, I want you to know that I have been consistent on the matter, and will continue to do so, regardless of whether it's local courtesy or not. I think it is a policy statement, and I just think we're going down the wrong path when we are trying to find more and more and more ways to push alcohol out into the public. So with that, thank you, Madam Chair.
I might just respond. I don't want to disparage the quality of haircuts and services that beauty salons provide and say that that this is a necessity for them to remain a viable business, as you suggested. But I would mention that the bill does have limits. It's 12 ounces of beer or 5 ounces of wine. And I knew that that would get your red light going, that we were going to have a conversation on a very simple bill. But I do respect that you have voted against these in the past and have recognized that you were probably going to do so as well. But again, I think it's part of the, again, potential overall experience to be able to have that, as my colleague mentioned. I'm sure that has been the case in the past.
No, and that's fine. I said my piece. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Senator. Senator Reedy, we have a whole page of bills for you. So do you want to start out with the Carroll County Bill, Senate Bill 964?
I will, Madam Chair. I'll start out with the bill that my delegation is, the delegation that I chair is responsible for, which is one, and then I'll do the, I'll do the 6 bills for the other delegation that I'm proud to be a member of. So I'll start with, what have we got? Senate Bill 964, which deals with alcohol awareness training for licensees in Carroll County. This bill, just very simply, was requested by our Carroll County Board of License Commissioners. We made a couple of adjustments in the delegation. As amended, it would require someone with that any bar or restaurant licensee in the county have someone always on site that has undergone this alcohol awareness training, the state's alcohol awareness training. We also had originally we were going to amend the bill to have it last for 6 years, but we found that state law says it's always 4 years. So we will keep it at that. But basically it's just saying any bar or restaurant with a license in Carroll County has to always have someone on site that has undergone this training. We generally have heard that for the most part, this is already happening, but we're just requesting that to add to our liquor license bills, our alcohol section. So I would ask for your support, Madam Chair, and see if there's any questions.
There are no questions. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 964.
All right, and now I'm honored to be a member of the Frederick County delegation representing the southeastern Frederick County, and I'm sort of pinch hitting today for other senators who are in other committees. Senator Folden is our Senate Chair. I'm going to start with Senate Bill 560, if that's all right, Madam Chair. And it, very simply, Senate Bill 560 permits the Frederick County Municipal Golf Course liquor license to be issued to an official of the city of Frederick. This license only applies to the municipal golf course that is managed by the city. So there's a request from basically to the District 3 senator and delegates, and it came from the Frederick city government, so that as they're the ones managing the municipal golf course. So that is all that bill does, and I'd ask for support and see if there are any questions.
I just wonder if that speaks to the quality of the golf game that you need alcohol with it. Just a comment.
Well, we don't want to go down that road on golf. We don't want to go down that road. If your golf course isn't beautiful enough to, no, just kidding.
I'm talking about the game.
Some folks, I think their game may improve slightly. Well, I don't know. We'll see.
So that ends the hearing on Senate Bill 560. Now we'll go to Senate Bill 561.
Senate Bill 561. This bill would give breweries and distilleries the opportunity in Frederick County to host events, weddings, et cetera, on premises, and it would allow for them to utilize caterers for these special events. But we do have an amendment that would prohibit them from having an interest in those caterers or food providers. So this would just simply allow breweries and distilleries to do what I think wineries in some cases are already doing in other places, is to have a wedding or a reception on site. So that is the extent of that bill. With the amendment, as I said, they can't be providing the food. It has to be an outside vendor.
So Senator Reedy, is that the amendment that Steve Wise is testifying favorable with amendment? Yeah. You want to come up, Steve?
Oh, yes, that's
No?
right. Steve was on. Yeah. Come on.
Not necessary.
Okay, that's the amendment.
It was there.
I
Yeah, it was their
understand.
amendment,
Okay.
which we considered friendly.
Any questions on Senate Bill 561? Thank you, Senator. That ends the hearing on 561. Now you have Senate Bill 563.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Senator Reedy here on behalf of the Frederick County delegation to present Senate Bill 563. This alters the Weinberg Center in the city of Frederick, the Weinberg Center beer, wine, and liquor license to also apply to the New Spires Arts Center. Both of these centers, Weinberg and New Spires Arts Center, are performing arts facilities operated by the city of Frederick. New Spires Arts Center already sells alcohol under a series of inexpensive one-day permits. So this will add them to the Weinberg Center's license. They are considered a sister entity, I'm told. So that's why the purpose for this bill. Please don't ask me any questions about the nature of their relationship, because I'd have to get back to you if you have any questions about that. But it's just so that they can share the same license, which Frederick County already has for these big event centers.
That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 563. Now we'll go to Senate Bill 767.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Reedy here to present Frederick County Delegations Bill, Senate Bill 767. This bill would give the Frederick County Liquor Board the power to issue a Frederick County beer, wine, and liquor promoters permit, as they are the appropriate authority to issue this permit. There is currently no issuing authority for a promoter's permit specified in statute. There's a technical amendment that's been provided to the committee to replace the instances of the word license with permit. And that is all there is to that bill. It's just to allow it to, it alters the promoter's permit in Frederick County and renames it as a promoter's on sale beer, wine, and liquor license. That's what it is. We're changing the word permit to license. I said that backwards. Sorry.
See no questions. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 767. We'll now go to Senate Bill 770.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 7, Senator Reedy here to present on behalf of the Frederick County delegation. Senate Bill 770 authorizes the holder of a stadium license in Frederick County which is Frederick County has a minor league ballpark, that's who we're talking about, to sell liquor along with wine and beer. There is a fee increase, but that reflects the change in the license. The intent is to allow the sale of pre-mixed beverages like canned cocktails, high noons, et cetera, which are classified as liquor despite not being substantially different in alcohol content than beer and wine. So that's what that bill does. It adds liquor to their license. And the license fee increases in the bill to $2,500, but that's because of the addition of liquor, for it was $2,000. So, Madam Chair, I'd ask for support for the committee and happy to answer questions.
I don't see any questions. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 770.
All right, and rounding to a close, Senate Bill.
1002.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 1002, here, Senator Reedy here to present for the Frederick County delegation. This would create a distillery license and brewery license at the county level in Frederick. The intent of this bill, and it was requested, I think, by multiple constituent businesses and the liquor board, was to allow distilleries and breweries to offer non-alcoholic beverages like water, Sprite, soda, and snacks, pretzels, chips to patrons. That is it would establish a Class DBR brewery license and a Class DDS distillery license. And so that is the extent of that legislation. So I would request favorable support and happy to answer questions, as I said.
I see no questions. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 1002. You did a very nice job. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Washington, would you like to do Senate Bill 456? It's a statewide bill. I think you have a panel, Caitlin McDonough, Chad Horrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Alonzo Washington here to present on Senate Bill 456. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the delivery of goods has completely reshaped the retail market, and alcohol should be no exception to this wave of change. SB 456 seeks to streamline the ability of retail license holders to deliver alcoholic beverages. Under this bill, the retail license holders would also be authorized to utilize third-party contractors, independent contractors, or agents holding a designated delivery service permit for such deliveries. To align with the growing trend of delivery service, Maryland should take action to enable the alcohol industry to stay on pace and maintain its competitive edge in the retail industry. Just for clarification, this bill would require allowing local licensing boards to set the appropriate regulations, such as charging fees for permits, and application requirements, creating requirements for the delivery service employees themselves, as well as for the receiver of alcoholic beverages themselves. Passing an enforcement clause in case violations occur is provided as well. What I'll add to this is that I know there were some comments earlier about with Senator Klossmeyer's bill in opposition, that there's no way to, when folks come to deliver at your home, there's no way to verify if the person is 18 or 21. There are technologies out there where they require when they come to your home to scan the ID before they give the alcohol to the adult. They scan everybody's ID. And I believe most of these delivery services have that as their policies currently to make sure that happens. So I want to make sure that we are at a competitive edge. Many states have already done this. For those reasons, Madam Chair, I ask for a favorable report on this bill. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Chair Bidle, members of the committee, Caitlin McDonough here on behalf of DoorDash in support of Senate Bill 456. And just a couple of points of clarification, and I'll describe how the bill differs from the bill you heard last year. One, retail licensees have been able to deliver in Maryland, I believe, since 2016. That was not established during COVID. That's a permanent law on the books. But currently they have to either the licensee themselves have to deliver or a direct employee. So what this would allow them to do is contract with a third party to do that delivery. And we believe that does put our licensees on a, right now we have larger licensees engaging in delivery because they have the ability and frankly, the financing to have a full-time delivery staff. This would allow a smaller retailer to also be able to offer that amenity. You'll see that the retailers are in support of the bill with an amendment that we've worked out with them. And that is because this bill functions almost entirely within our current system. Local jurisdictions would have to opt in and offer this permit. So even if the bill passes, until a local jurisdiction opts in, this would not be permitted. And then we would have to contract with each individual licensee who's already been permitted to deliver and now would have to get a contract to deliver through a third-party licensee. I know Chad's going to go into some of the safety and ID checking and youth access safety issues with the bill. But, not only does this kind of create a level playing field between large and small retailers within Maryland, as the senator mentioned, other jurisdictions, our surrounding jurisdictions allow this. So we do think it promotes competition within the region. And then the last element I'll note is our dashers, our deliverers, similar to if you work in a restaurant that serves alcohol, earn much higher wages when they're able to do this. So there is a benefit for that. They would have to opt in. They would have to take an alcohol awareness training similar to a clerk in a liquor store. And if they don't, use the technology to check the ID, they do not get paid for that transaction. So there is a high incentive for that to happen. There's also penalties in the bill if we fail to meet the requirements, including loss of the permit. So I'll pass it over to Chad. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Chad Horrell, I'm with DoorDash, and we're here to testify in support of Senate Bill 456. As of today, 31 states across the country, including neighboring DC and Virginia, actually allow for some type of third-party delivery of alcohol. In today's economy, customers want delivery. They're getting everything delivered these days. We see that every day just driving down the street, looking at folks' doorsteps. And alcohol is no different. I think the most important thing from our perspective is alcohol delivery on our platform benefits all three sides of our marketplace. Consumers want it. It benefits liquor stores, retail facilities, small businesses, but it also benefits the delivery drivers, we call them dashers. On the small business side, I do want to just highlight on our platform last year, 180% small independent liquor stores actually saw 180% increase in sales in month 6 as compared to month 1. That just kind of shows you how much the service is utilized. Total liquor store sales on the platform increased by 295% last year on DoorDash. And then also on the Dasher side, Caitlin kind of alluded to this, but Dashers earn on average about 30% more on a transaction that includes alcohol as compared to any other type of delivery. So it benefits them as well. On the safety side, I do want to touch on this. Delivery can be done safely. The Dashers must opt in to be willing to do it. They must be 21. They must take a safe alcohol delivery training program. When they actually are making the delivery, they must scan the ID, not the back side like you see at a lot of retail facilities, but the front side. Why is this important? It ensures, number one, they are 21. The ID is legitimate. It has not been tampered with. In a lot of cases, this is actually more extensive than what you're seeing today. So I'll conclude there, but obviously happy to answer any questions.
Senator Kramer has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's Mr. Horrell.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share with you out of the gate. I'm not a fan of the idea of this process. You made the point that customers want delivery. I get that, but would you acknowledge that alcohol is a legal drug? Would you acknowledge that that's what alcohol is, a legally sold drug?
I think it's a product that is legal, right? That
you've never heard that alcohol is considered a drug of any kind?
Yeah, I'm not
okay. On the assumption it is, albeit legal, can you distinguish between delivering a hamburger and a legal drug? Is that?
And if I may, Senator, I think.
With all due respect, Caitlin, I was asking the gentleman whose business is going to be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm hoping to try to get a better understanding of this. And it sounds like we're not off to a good start. We can't already just get to common ground as to the product that you are looking to be delivering to people's homes. And and the consequences of that action. It sounds like it's more about the profit, and that's where the focus is, rather on the importance of the understanding of what it is you are seeking to now be doing. And there is a distinct difference between alcohol and a hamburger. Whether you can answer that or not, I'll point it out. And I'm concerned that clearly you were pointing to statistics where you all can be doing this now, sales skyrocket. That means a lot of alcohol is being delivered to people's homes. And every single study ever done on the subject of alcohol availability and all of the complications and problems that come with alcohol consumption, direct correlation. The more alcohol is available, the direct correlation to increased health consequences by virtue of that increased access. Could you share with me this process of scanning an ID?
Yeah, so when you actually go on the app to purchase the product, you will actually be told ahead of time you must upload your ID into the app. We have a third-party vendor that we actually work with that verifies that they are 21, that the ID is legitimate. It bumps up against the 50-state ID database.
It
to
is
ensure
that
this.
ID scanned when the dasher comes to the door?
Yes.
And delivers it?
Yes. So
Is it
it's a
scanned
two-step ID
prior to that or at that point in time?
It is scanned before the purchase can be made on the app. So even if you go in and put your product in the cart and the ID doesn't check out, the transaction cannot be completed at that point. And then at the door, the dasher will bring the product to the door. If you've had food delivery, you can actually just have the food dropped off. That is not the case with alcohol because we have to do that second ID scan. Person has to come to the door, present a legitimate ID. It must be them. The dashers are trained on that whole process to make sure that they are 21, checking the ID, but also to make sure that they are not visibly intoxicated at the door. And then there's a second ID scan that happens at the door that further verifies that the ID is legitimate before that product can be handed over. And I think that, and if I could,
please
you
go
wouldn't
ahead.
mind- and just to take it a step further, if that transaction cannot be completed at the door, the dasher is trained to bring that product back to the retail facility. They still get paid if they do that. But I think the other key piece here too is it's all done within the app. So if the ID does not check out, if something goes wrong, if they have to get somebody with customer service on the phone and cannot complete that, we know that they are basically instructed at that time to not deliver the product and take it back to the retail facility. They still get paid everything that they were going to get paid no matter what. So it's not like they're incentivized to just leave it at the door because they're not going to get paid.
I understand that's not an incentive, but having said that, these are individuals who are trying to go from delivery to delivery to delivery. What happens if they fail to scan it? And out of curiosity, if one ID is scanned in and now the scanner in person, there's a different ID, what happens?
It could be a different person at the door, but they must be 21. Different from who purchased it initially. That is.
Well, and just to clarify, that actually depends on jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So as the bill is crafted, the dashers or whomever is delivering, whatever third-party service delivery is bound by the jurisdictional regulations around delivery. So I know in Baltimore City, the person who delivers, the person who orders has to be the person who accepts. In Prince George's County, the rules are different and so on. So you are bound by, and the boards are also free to set regulations specific to third-party delivery in addition to the already established delivery.
Understood. It could be a total patchwork as to who's really concerned about
And that's what's currently.
what they want to have and how sincere they are at the local level of government and enforcing it. I get that.
As under.
So
current-
now we've got somebody whose ID got scanned in for the original purchase, and now it could be a different ID at the door. And we're hoping against hope that this dasher is somehow trained and is not in a hurry to get on to delivering that next meal, and is also checking the sobriety of the person at the door to make sure they're not intoxicated. And we sincerely believe that's exactly what's going to happen. 10, 11 o'clock at night at a dark doorway, dasher delivering alcohol, ready to go get a pizza to somebody else, is going to be doing an analysis as to whether the person there is intoxicated or not, has the same ID that was originally loaded up. So that could be, you know, Johnny's older brother whose wallet was left on his nightstand. And now Johnny and his buddies have the older brother's ID. And here comes the dasher with the liquor they've ordered. What happens, you said, if the dasher fails to scan the ID, they simply don't get paid for that delivery? Did I understand that correctly? Are they fired on the spot and terminated from ever being a dasher again for having delivered alcohol to perhaps a 12, 14, 16-year-old?
I mean, I think that I would, in response to that, I would say that when they opt to do the delivery, they know what the penalties are if they do not follow the checklist of things that you have to do that you just listed off.
And
right?
again, what are those penalties?
The penalty is they could be taken off the platform. They can also be criminal liable. So if something were to happen, they are held accountable.
Is there a definitive policy, and should we have, if this law were to be passed, specifications as to how it's going to be done and the consequences? I can tell you right now, at a retail level, local jurisdictions send in people to try to see if a sale is being made. And there are serious consequences if that transaction takes place.
So, Senator-
That's not going to be
So,
happening here.
Senator, the bill does outline, and we worked with the Alcohol and Tobacco and Cannabis, sorry, I got the second C, Commission on the bill. The bill does have penalties in place. So the law, if were this to pass, puts requirements on both the delivery company and the individual deliverers. So it's not also hoping against hope that they go through training. They have to under the bill. The training is state approved. It's almost identical to what you see in a store for a clerk. And then it is.
And Caitlin understood, but no, using where you just went.
Okay.
Like in a store.
Yep.
The difference is in the store, you're likely to have a manager, you're likely to have other people in that situation, in that context, who are going to look and see, okay, we've got this kid working at the cash register, in comes his buddies, and now he's trying to sell beer to his friends.
So, and
You're not going to have that in this scenario.
Similarly, so there are, were the law not to be followed, there are repercussions for both the deliverer. I mean, and it is enforced by the local jurisdiction. So I'd have to defer to how they would enforce it. And they do have basically a sting operation where they would order, similar to like if you went in and attempted to buy at a store, you could order if all the provisions aren't required.
Understood.
So, and then there's also penalties for the delivery. So I think I apologize. I don't have the bill right in front of me. There's like 4 different, there's, first offense, second offense, third offense, you lose the permit. There's significant monetary penalties. It mirrors what we see in brick and mortar liquor stores.
Well,
Because that was
in
an
brick and
issue.
mortar, very often that employee is gone the moment it happens. I'm not hearing that from, I'm sorry, Mr. Harrell. But with that, thank you. I appreciate it, Madam Chair.
Madam
Thank
Chair.
you very much.
Madam Chair, I would like to respond to I would like to respond to something that the senator said. There was questions about the alcohol being a drug. Cannabis is also a drug. And here in the state of Maryland, we allow for the delivery of cannabis here in the state of Maryland, and it's done by a third-party delivery service as well. So to say that we haven't done this before, we have done this before for a legal drug in Maryland. Thank you.
I would share, Senator, with all due respect, I didn't say it hasn't been done. I'm well aware it's in cannabis. I was very involved in the passage of that legislation. There were very strict limitations, as the good senator shaking his head here knows, on those deliveries. And we do not have DoorDash delivering cannabis. Now, that may be next year's bill, but we don't have DoorDash doing that now. And that was the context. So
I look forward to those amendments to making it more strict. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
thank you.
Thank you.
Possibly be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We have one unfavorable, Ramey Eck.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Ramiak from the Maryland Public Health Association. I want to thank Senator Kramer for testifying on behalf of us. I have nothing else to say. I jest, but it is important to recognize that the things that he's talking about are real. And a lot of times, and not necessarily in this subcommittee and in Monday's hearings, you are much more well versed on alcohol not being a drug, a product of convenience. I hate hearing that word because that's not what we regulate it, because it's an intoxicating product with very expensive costs, both societal costs, physical costs, pocketbook costs. Maryland spends almost $5 billion a year on alcohol-related harms, and those are data from 2010. If we extrapolate that to today's dollars, that's almost $7 billion, or $3 per drink. That's just addressing the harms, and compare that with the $350 million that we bring in taxes. I do understand there's other business-related income, unemployment that goes down because people are employed. So parsing those things out is very difficult, but just remembering that alcohol is a drug. It's an illegal drug for people under the age of 21. The data on third-party delivery, as with cocktails to go, is extremely limited. I mentioned some of it earlier. We know that episodes of drinking tend to continue when you're able to get alcohol conveniently. And also with the youth, I recognize that there is much better technology than we've had, and the research has not caught up with that to show whether that actually stops deliveries at the door. But I think some of the issues with, hey, let me give you a 20, your ID checker's broken, kids are clever. We're all kids at some point in time, and these things absolutely happen. And I'm sorry that the data is not there yet, but I'm hoping it will be in the future. But again, to move forward with legislation that most jurisdictions, even though it is in statute that they can use it if they want, most jurisdictions are not using this. After asking some counties, they say they don't even allow it there. So saying that most people already have it and we're just adding another level is not exactly what's going on in the ground. So I'd like to see these things kept local as opposed to a national company. So the only people testifying in favor of it, as opposed to our local community and the businesses here.
Ramey, thank you. Senator Washington has a question.
Yes.
Thank you. Is alcohol a legal drug?
It's a legal drug for people over the age of 21.
Got it.
Or 21 and over.
Got it. Fair enough. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Is cannabis a legal drug?
Yes.
Okay.
For people over the age of 21 and over.
Correct. And does the state of Maryland allow for a third-party vendor to deliver cannabis?
Not because of any of the work that we did. Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So we have a virtual Robert Melvin. Unmute for us, Mr. Melvin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the committee, Robert Melvin with the R Street Institute. First and foremost, I want to point out that we're one of the few nonpartisan think tanks in the country that focuses on examining and analyzing alcohol rules and regulations. And so that's why this bill is of interest to us. This measure would create a local delivery service that grants third-party delivery services with the ability to deliver alcoholic beverages from, liquor stores in the state of Maryland. This also, we think that it's important to point out that it's limited to just jurisdictions that have adopted policies on this. Currently, a majority of states that permit delivery from off-premise retail stores are doing this, and it's 43 states. of these 6 states allow only store employees to sell alcohol. And most of the other states actually allow third-party delivery services. And so, you know, some of the stuff that we've noticed is that Maryland employers continue to struggle with filling open positions. Many of these small mom and pop liquor stores want to grow and expand, are often prevented from doing so because they have an inability to afford the cost of an in-house delivery person. And permitting these businesses to partner with third-party delivery platforms can have an amplifying effect on their bottom line by creating new market access channels. In fact, data suggests that off-premise retail stores that permitted to partner with third-party delivery platforms see an increase in revenues by 30 to 50%. We also have seen that these allowing this doesn't necessarily result in increased drunk driving or underage drinking based off of research that we've done at our Street Institute. And I'm happy to share that with anyone on the committee that might want to see some of that, but it's also in the official testimony that I've submitted today as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Do I have any questions for this witness? Thank you very much. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 456. And now the Vice Chair is going to take over, and I'm going to do Senate Bill 1001. Thank you.
How do you say its name?
Good afternoon, Senate Finance Committee, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you for hearing Senate Bill 1001, Class 4 Limited Winery License. Thank you for the opportunity to present this bill. This legislation consists of simple technical changes that will enable our wineries to be more innovative, flexible, and have an ability to utilize the best grapes, bulk wine, and other Maryland agricultural products to make their wine. Senate Bill 1001 makes 2 simple technical changes, broadens what Maryland-grown agricultural products can count toward Maryland wineries' ingredient requirement. For example, they could add honey and have honey wine, which some of us know as mead, but that would be an option. This legislation, as amended, raises the percentage of bulk wine that Maryland wineries can sell or buy from other Maryland wineries to 75% from 25%. And this change enables Maryland wineries or vineyards that have a really good crop to sell more to other Maryland wineries. Similarly, it enables Maryland wineries who may experience a poor crop from flooding or spotted lantern flies or other threats to buy more Maryland bulk wine to comply with their Maryland made requirements. And last, as amended, the legislation clarifies that cannabis and THC cannot be utilized as a Maryland grown agricultural product. I respectfully ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 1001. With that, I'm glad to turn it over to my panel.
Good afternoon. Matt Boley of RWL here on behalf of the Maryland Wineries Association in support of SB 1001. We greatly thank Senator Bidle for your sponsorship of this legislation. I'll be brief. The second amendment, that's a sponsor amendment, also takes the cap from bulk wine from 25 to 75%. And you have the other technical fix from regarding cannabis and THC products not being able to be included. And we appreciate the work with the ATCC on those amendments and Maryland Department of Agriculture as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Phineas DeFord of Bordy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Phineas DeFord with Bordy Vineyards in Baltimore County, here today to testify in support of Senate Bill 1001. I'm going to jump right to the increase in percentage because, again, these are technical fixes that have already been discussed. Discuss why this is important. Number one, it allows smaller and startup wineries to grow their business without having to make costly investments in additional processing equipment. And number two, it further strengthens the connection between the Maryland wine industry and Maryland agriculture, because all of that finished wine that they can purchase from another winery must be made from 100% Maryland grown products. With that, I'll turn it over to another panelist. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon. Rachel Jones, Director of the Government Relations for the Maryland Department of Agriculture. HB 1033, sorry, the Senate version, SB 1001, we obviously feel would help to promote the agricultural industry more here in Maryland by, as the senator already mentioned, allowing farmers to support other farmers. The MDA supports the expansion of the license holder's ability to grow products beyond grapes and fruit for honey wine and dandelion wine and things like onion wine that maybe some people aren't familiar with, but it would allow the wineries to expand their options for what they can produce and sell in the market. And as it was already stated, the bill would more deeply root on-farm alcohol producers in Maryland agriculture and help boost the economic viability of the industry. The MDA, in conjunction with the ATCC, are in agreement with the clarifying bill language that would make it consistent, the use of Maryland-grown agricultural products as opposed to just Maryland agricultural products. Additionally, the MDA concurs with the ATCC on the amendment to require the MDA to establish a definition for the term of Maryland-grown agricultural product. And as already stated, that definition would exclude the use of cannabis and other intoxicating products as defined by the ABCA to manufacture or produce wine. And so with that, the Maryland Department of Agriculture respectfully requests a favorable report.
Thank you. Committee, do we have Senator Washington?
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize Delegate Rachel Jones from District 27B for being here. So just wanted to recognize you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? With that, we're going to move on to the next bill. And Senate Bill 1041, alcoholic beverages, breweries, wineries, and distilleries, direct delivery and direct shipment. And it's Senator Guile.
I've got Jamie, Herbert, Edward, Caroline, and Brett. All right. You know, I like bills with very robust engagement. All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, fellow members of the Senate Finance Committee. For the record, Senator Don Guile here to present Senate Bill 1041, which will make permanent privileges that have allowed our breweries, wineries, and distilleries to ship their product using a common carrier, deliver their product using an employee, and sell their product to go without outdated restrictions. Our local wineries, breweries, and distilleries are an important part of our economy and staples in our community. The legislation before you today is a reflection of where the industry is in 2024. As you know, our three-tier system has changed drastically since the end of Prohibition and continues to evolve. As times change, consumer expectations change, and we want to make sure Maryland's breweries, wineries, and distilleries are businesses that can be passed down from generation to generation, no different than the businesses within the retail and wholesale tiers that will testify today. With me today are members from the distilleries, breweries, and wineries who will speak to specific provisions in this legislation that impact their businesses. In some cases, you will hear about the importance of statewide delivery using their employees, for some direct shipping using a common carrier, and for everyone, the right to sell without limitations when a customer wants to purchase their products to go. Members of the committee, you may also hear concerns expressed by the opposition pertaining to the constitutionality of direct shipping. Those concerns should be viewed through the current law, which is set to sunset in July of this year. In an effort to address these concerns, we worked closely with ATCC over the interim to come up with a framework for this bill that we all believe passes constitutional muster based on best practices and very recent case law, including a recent Fourth Circuit opinion. And I also wanted to add that we continue to work with those in opposition and are continuing discussions to get this bill through. And I will now turn things over to Brad Rifkin, who will briefly discuss the framework of the legislation before turning things over to the members of the industry. I hope you will join me in supporting Senate Bill 1041, and thank you for your consideration.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Brad Rifkin on behalf of Maryland's breweries, wineries, and distilleries. Here today in support of the bill, I want to thank the committee for what you did last year, extending these privileges And we heard you loud and clear that it was time for us to put a permanent proposal on the table, and that's what this bill is today. This 21-page bill, much like in 2011, when the General Assembly made the policy decision to authorize direct ship for in-state and out-of-state manufacturers, you had to create the permitting structure to do so. So this bill has the permitting structure for direct ship for breweries and distilleries, the permitting structure for delivery using employees, and then the ancillary provisions that go around those permits, like applications and fees, renewal fees, the excise tax and payment of tax and remittance, bond requirements, reports and record keeping, and under 21 policies and labeling. That's all embedded in this bill and mirrored after what already exists. Some of the concerns that you'll hear, as Senator Guile mentioned, one, obviously the concern regarding constitutionality. We believe that in collaboration with the ATCC over the interim, we've resolved that in this bill. The other concerns we have heard over the years pertain, for instance, to the issue with direct shipping and how macro manufacturers may circumvent the liquor stores and direct ship to Maryland consumers and what impact that can have. And we understand that. That's why this bill strictly prohibits macro manufacturers from direct shipping to Maryland consumers, including the affiliates of conglomerates. You won't see Budweiser, you won't see Tito's, none of that will be direct shipped to Maryland consumers under this bill. Additionally, we have heard commentary like we always come back asking for more. Here they are again. And what I'll say to that is, here we are on Alcohol Day. Every year we have Alcohol Day. And if we didn't come back asking for more, if your constituents didn't come back asking for more, consumers weren't demanding those things. And we're here to modernize laws and basically ensure that the industry has the ability to exist now and in the future. So for those reasons, we respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, committee. I'm Ed Boyce from Black Ankle Vineyards in Frederick County, and in 2 years soon to be Live Edge Vineyards in Clarksburg in Montgomery County. We are the biggest grape grower in the state and a proud promoter of Maryland wine. First of all, I want to say when we started 20 years ago, we were not allowed to have tables and chairs in our tasting room. So I want to thank this committee and previous committees for helping us modernize the rules around and allow us to have a business that is very successful and profitable for us. We employ about 72 part-time employees. Last year, they made on average about a little over $26 an hour. Working for us, it's a really good job, well paying. They're always looking for more hours. We're mostly a weekend and beautiful days in the summer kind of business. So we've been looking for different ways to give them more hours. One of the ways we've come up with is to deliver wine directly to our customers. That's 99.9% of those customers are our wine club members who have joined the Black Ankle Wine Club. So we've done that in lieu of using Federal Express or UPS to do that delivery. I'm here to ask you to please enshrine that in law permanently so that we can give extra hours to our employees and let them have the quantity of work that they want to have. If it doesn't pass, I'm not really here on behalf of my business, because it doesn't pass, I can still deliver that wine through Federal Express or EPS or some other common carrier. But I'd really rather give those jobs and that money to Marylanders and to my excellent employees. So I'm hoping for a favorable readout on this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Linden, and I own the Lion Rum Distillery in St. Michael's. We're in our 11th year of making rum on the Eastern Shore. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share my story about how this legislation affects us, but also thank you for your commitment to helping small manufacturers compete in what is a very competitive global alcohol industry. As an alcohol manufacturer, we have daily struggles in getting our product to market and to customers due to many antiquated regulations. So in addition to direct sales to people who visit my distillery and our robust home delivery service that we've been implementing for the last 4 years, we do work with over 200 retailers and restaurants across the state. But even with the strongest wholesale relationships, it's impossible to get every product we make to every Marylander that's interested in purchasing them. Therefore, the ability to deliver direct to Maryland residents using my trained staff and my company vehicles is critical. The majority of our home deliveries are more than 60 miles from the distillery. Less than 5% are on the Eastern Shore and virtually none are in my county. So having any kind of limitation on where I can go defeats the purpose of my far-reaching stretch into as far west as Cumberland, as far south as St. George's Island. These are customers that cannot find our product in a liquor store near them and sometimes don't have a liquor store near them. So basically, these are sales that won't happen any other way unless I go to them. Most people are not going to drive 100 miles round trip to get to my distillery for a bottle of rum, but I am happy to do that and have been doing that for 4 years. So basically, without this bill, an entire sales channel is cut off. I don't want to see a grim outlook for my industry. Please don't take away this incredibly effective way for us to get Maryland products into the hands of Marylanders who want them. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and fellow committee members. For the record, my name is Herb Banks. I am owner, operator, and master distiller at Copper Compass Craft Distilling Company down in Charles County, Maryland. I'm also a retired service member. I proudly served 23 years in the world's finest Navy. I'm also proud to say that I am the very first African-American owned full production distillery in the state of Maryland. Also very blessed and proud to say that I was able to bring this vision to life right down in beautiful Charles County. When I initially came up with this harebrained idea to open up this craft distillery, I had 3 goals in mind. I want to create a superior product and experience. I want to create jobs. And I want to create an avenue of generational wealth for my family. In the 16 months that I've been open and operating, we've been well received by the constituents of Charles County. And one of the primary revenue streams of my business is the ability to deliver my product across the state. Excuse me. 4 of my 9 employees right now, their primary responsibility is to deliver product throughout the state. In fact, when I leave here today, right here in Annapolis, I have a delivery to make. The ability to deliver product across the state is very integral to my operation. It gives me the ability to employ fellow Marylanders, and I'm also able to put this product in front of other Marylanders who may not have accessibility to Charles County. Excuse me. I also am able to open the aperture on brand awareness with respect to my brand exclusively. Whereas though my fellow counterparts are telling you they've been in business for years, I've been in business for a few months. And without this triples my business to the point where I may end up having to close the doors at the end of this year. It is with the utmost respect that I ask you to please vote favorably for this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Caroline Sisson. I am the Director of Marketing for Heavy Seas Beer. I'm also greatly the president of the Brewers Association of Maryland. And in my role as president, I have a duty to represent and advocate for all breweries in Maryland. I am in support of Senate Bill 1041 on behalf of all craft brewers and alcohol manufacturers in the state. The tools that are currently in place have helped breweries in the state as the craft beer industry continues to struggle and recover from the impacts of COVID-19. In some instances, these tools have helped breweries sustain their business and keep their doors open over the last few years. Even as now Maryland's largest craft brewery, Heavy Seas has also been impacted and struggled over the last few years, and we have had to explore options for sustaining our business. Regarding shipping and delivering, while Heavy Seas does not currently ship or deliver directly to consumers, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't want that option in the future and have not considered it thus far. Additionally, it is common for retailers to only carry a couple of products from each supplier. Majority of craft brewers produce many more products than just that. Heavy Seas, as an example, will produce at least 20 different beers this year, but many of those products won't see many of the shelves or taps. Senate Bill 1041 can help breweries have the ability to make their entire product portfolio available to customers and lovers of these breweries.
I think that's everyone. Thank you for your testimony. Do I have any questions, Senator Reed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very quickly, because I think I'm super sympathetic to this bill, and maybe Senator Guy could ask you, being an attorney, it sounds to me though like we can't just expand it for the state without opening it up for everybody in the country based on interstate commerce laws and court cases that are going on or have gone on, and I am not a lawyer, but that's my understanding.
Brad's here, a lawyer too.
Brad, sorry, Brad, yeah, Brad, of course, no disrespect. So the challenge I see is that in attempting to help, for example, the gentleman from Charles County obviously would want to be helpful. Are we? We also, I don't think, have seen a lot of these kind of sales in the state. It's helped him, but it's not necessarily, it's not on volume a lot. But if we open it up now, are we in? Can you just speak to that? That's seems to me like the biggest issue here.
It's a great question. Look, over the past 4 years, Senator, we have made clear, and I know the opposition has made clear, that the bill as it was drafted coming out of COVID, because we had to codify the executive orders, did limit direct shipping to just the in-state manufacturers. And we knew that raised constitutional concerns. And so over the course of the interim, working with the ATCC to build out a framework and look at recent case law, particularly as it relates to direct shipping, we knew that we had to open it up to in-state and out-of-state. We've had direct shipping for wineries since 2011, and that's in-state and out-of-state. There is no argument to be made that we can only limit in-state breweries and distilleries for direct shipping for wine. So it is open up to in-state and out-of-state in this bill for direct shipping. There's two pieces of the bill. So there's direct shipping using a common carrier, putting it in the mail, FedEx. There's the delivery using your employee. That piece is different. That piece, we do believe, under current case law, most recent case law, and best practices that we've seen in other states, that we can limit it. And the state has a vested interest in protecting its three-tier system, that it falls within the sanctity of the three-tier system to do that. We saw a case recently that came out of the Fourth Circuit based on a North Carolina law that basically said, or did say, that retailers, only in-state retailers, can ship directly to in-state North Carolina residents.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there, and I have one
Sure.
follow-up, Madam Chair, and then I'll be done. So the UPS FedEx thing is probably of greater concern, and we don't have to get into a debate back for that. I feel like that really could open things up in maybe a more, I don't like to say dangerous way, but I have a lot of concern there.
Less the
as well.
constitutional piece, because we are opening up the direct shipping from a constitutional perspective for in-state and out-of-state manufacturers. Maybe for the opposition who will come up after us, they will testify that by opening it up to out-of-state manufacturers, it maybe jeopardizes their business in a different way. So that's a different argument, I think, than the legal argument. But I think there's a separation between the delivery piece using your employee and again, the ATCC has a right to regulate those particular licensees and their employees and require alcohol awareness training and all the things that you want for in-state licensees to be able to do. So I see them in maybe two different buckets, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
No Kramer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Brad, I'm gonna pursue a little bit further what Senator Reedy just started with. So now, after, and maybe we can talk about the history of this just a touch. This originated with the pandemic. And the industry you're representing came in and said, hey, look, by virtue of the pandemic, this is something we need to do, despite the fact that the governor allowed every beer and wine store and liquor store in the state to remain open during the pandemic. But this was something that was needed to allow the delivery, the direct shipping. What came out of that executive order? Would you share that with the committee,
Sure.
please?
The executive order authorized the direct shipping piece and authorized the delivery piece. There was a separate piece with regard to off-premise sales that was separate from the executive order. It was at the time the comptroller was regulating things a little bit different. But that came out of the executive order. And then we had a bill the next year to codify all of these privileges. And it was a sunset bill, and it sunset, and then we extended it again. And then to your point
And
about
what was the rationale and the logic to extending it for, and how long was it originally extended for?
I think the first bill was a 1-year bill, then there was another 1-year bill.
So we had a bill extended for one more year, and what was the rationale and the logic behind that?
one, that there's several rationale. The first would be that these businesses, particularly during COVID, and I appreciate the fact that the liquor stores were open, but many of my clients were not allowed to be open because most of their sales channels, as we've talked about in terms of generating revenue,
We're
comes from
moving
the
forward
on-premise.
as to the logic for extending it for 1 year. What was the rationale? I remember hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that these businesses still needed for 1 more year to recover from COVID to participate in what they had never previously done with delivery and direct shipping, but during COVID could do during the executive order. Am I correct that the thought was we need to do it 1 more year yet because this is what the industry needs to survive?
Senator, one, you're correct.
Okay.
That we had to extend it. And what I'll say is we would have loved to make it permanent from day one. We knew that wasn't realistic. But what I'll say in terms of COVID, and we like to pretend like there isn't an impact anymore from COVID, the reality is the inflation that we see in our country, the supply chain and the cost of doing business is entirely different than the way it used to be. And my client's cost of running their business is impacted still from the effects of COVID. As we all know, that's a real thing. So while, yes, COVID may not be anymore the actual impetus for a permanent request, the impetus may be the fact that these businesses want these particular provisions to be permanent because consumers demand it. And at the same time, because we've seen, for instance, the wineries have direct shipping since 2011, and businesses have been able to continue to exist. Of course, at some point, we were going to ask for these privileges across the board. COVID required us to push that up.
Terrific. You didn't ask for it last year, so there was an extension. And then you came back again asking for yet another year because it was needed for whatever reason. And I hear you alluding to, we were always going to ask to make it permanent, but I don't remember on all the occasions I've heard the discussion about this, that was the end game. I always heard, just give us 1 more year. Just give us 1 more year. That's why the bill has a sunset. Now, there were many of us in this committee who could see where this was going, that, okay, each year we're coming in and asking for yet another year, but based on the need for doing this. So now, if I understand correctly, in order to be constitutional, and I know that was brought up repeatedly, I've heard that, and your assertions in the past had been, well, we're still pushing forward with doing it. Evidently now it's been discovered, yes, there are constitutional Commerce Clause issues. So in order to pass constitutional muster, the bill is now opening it up so that every state in this great nation of ours can ship into Maryland. Am I correct?
You are correct that,
okay.
But limited based on size. So manufacturers that qualify by being able to obtain the permit, and the ability to get the permit is predicated on your ability to get a wholesale license. There's a limitation, there's a production limit. So we're not going to see macro manufacturers.
Understood. And would you acknowledge that production limits, as we've heard about the evolution of this, often we start out with, here's the production limits. 2 years later, here's another bill to increase that. 2 years later, yet here's another bill. And now we're going to be allowing 49 states to compete in the Maryland market with Maryland businesses shipping into our state to make this bill possibly a law constitutional. So that's the only way we can do it, is open up Maryland businesses to being exposed to now every state being able to compete. And I would ask Brad, and I asked this question last year, and we weren't able to get an answer. how many brewers are actually taking advantage of their ability to right now, participate in the law that you're looking to make permanent? How many brewers in the state of Maryland? First of all, how many brewers are there in the state of Maryland? Would you share that?
I don't have the exact number, but it's over 150.
Okay. And could you share with the committee, of that 150 brewers, how many are actually shipping right now?
Very few. And we know why, because Senator, the cost of shipping beer, because it's incredibly heavy, and the product itself is a cheaper product in terms of cost, the economies of scale make no sense to ship it. So for the most part, we have some breweries, for instance, that we had one brewery testify in the House. He produces gluten-free beer. It's something that liquor stores
Brad,
don't want to carry.
Brad,
so
please,
he
we're
delivers
trying,
it.
I don't want to open this up to all new testimony. I'm asking very specific questions that I'm hoping will get very specific answers. And the reason for that is we have heard every year that the industry needed this to survive. And that's why it was being done and extended and extended. And now I'm asking you, if the industry needed this, how many have participated? It's been your testimony in the past that this was needed for their survival. And I will share with you that the Alcohol, Tobacco, Cannabis Commission, Madam Chair, is required by law to provide data about this. And we've received it. And I would just like to point out that from May of 2021, when this was, I believe, first implemented, through what appears to be October of last year, and if my higher math skills are serving me correctly, and that's always a challenge, out of all those Maryland brewers you referenced, a total of two actually shipped in all of that time, despite the fact we've heard repeatedly that the industry would dry up on the vine if we did not do this. A total of two out of all those brewers. And what did they ship? A total of 125 cases of beer, according to the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission's report. Out of the 45 distillers in the state, it appears that a total of 6 actually availed themselves of the ability to do this, despite the fact every year we were hearing the sunset needed to be extended in order to allow these industries to thrive. And now what we have before us is a bill that opens the state of Maryland up to every state in the nation competing with our breweries, our distillers at all levels, whether it's retail or otherwise, because 2 brewers, and by the way, there were roughly 5 million cases of beer sold in 2022, yet of those 5 million, 125 were direct ship. So I have grave concerns that we are putting at risk Maryland business, and that perhaps what we have been hearing now for multiple years may not have been quite as represented when we see that since the inception until as recently as October, I'm guessing it hasn't changed since then, 2 brewers.
It hasn't changed, Senator, because last year, not from our doing, but in the House, an amendment was tacked onto the bill to put a moratorium on how many of my members could actually apply for a permit. So the bill popped out with a the bill as it popped out actually would have prevented Herb from getting a permit. We had to work at the 11th hour to allow Comper Compass to get a permit. But for that moratorium, and I know exactly why it was put in the bill. But that being said, yes, there are very few breweries that are doing it. To my point, because of the reality from the cost of shipping. But it
thank
doesn't
you.
mean that
That-
Jamie's business or other businesses aren't, if this bill doesn't pass, going to be incredibly impacted by it. And there's more to the bill than just shipping, as you know. There's delivery, and then there's the off-premise piece. So yes, we do come in and talk about this because I have members that have some of the provisions apply to them, some of the provisions apply to others, and in various ways. So we're in support of the bill as a whole.
Thank you.
And-
Thank you,
and if I-
Madam Chair.
If I could just provide a clarification to the data that Senator Kramer just provided. Those statistics, that was just those that are shipping by a common carrier. There's also those that have been participating and been delivering by their own employees. So there's more to it.
So, Madam Senator, I'm hearing a lot of really good information about the direct ship.
Mhm.
If direct ship was amended out of the bill, your folks could still deliver.
Do you mean just direct ship by a common carrier versus direct ship by their employees?
No, well, when their employees do delivery, they wouldn't be doing direct ship. The employees would do delivery.
yeah.
But take out direct ship, so we don't have the entire country competing with our local wineries and breweries and distillery. I'm just gonna put that out there.
We
that
are
it's a-
happy to have a conversation with the other stakeholders to try to
Okay.
come to an agreement that works for everybody.
Thank you.
Great.
Senator Mounts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that discussion. So, I'm honored to have our constituent here with, Lions Distilling. Jamie, good to see you. Are you direct shipping or you're just delivering?
So I never, like many, and I don't want to speak for other distilleries, but I know there's a lot of distilleries and breweries that haven't yet to implement direct shipping because it is a whole system. So a lot have waited for that to be codified before you go out and invest in all the packaging and systems. You'll hear from Monica at 10th Ward of what it's like to implement a system like that. So we didn't. We deliver. We're just, I guess, crazy hustlers, and we drive it right to people. And so for us, we might look into that in the future, but as Brad mentioned, it's really expensive to ship. If anything, it's actually more economical for us to drive around, visit our liquor stores, deliver a bottle, et cetera.
And how much of your business would you just ballpark is the delivery portion of the?
You know, it has gone down quite a bit. In the last 4 years, we've seen a decline, but it's still fairly significant. I would say this time of year, it was like 50% of our sales in January and February because we're going far, you know. But no, I think that it's really driven by consumers. Johnny, if I ever would have thought that I would have had vans and be delivering, I thought everybody was going to come to St. Michael's, but people have changed. So it's really a necessity. To Brad's point, it was critical in COVID. Now it's critical because it's what people need and because there's so much competition,
And then
you know.
how many gallons are you producing a year, you think?
We're quite small. Lion Rum, we are loud, but we are tiny. We make under 7,000 gallons of rum a year.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a lot to try to monetize.
Yeah.
How many employees are there now?
In the height of the season, we'll have about 30.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I
And-
see no further question. Oh, you have another.
Madam Chair, and I go by Johnny.
I'm sorry, I just slipped out.
Thank you, Senator Johnny. And your rum is very good. You've done tastings here, so thank you. So that ends all the questions for this panel. I have another panel, looks like a favorable panel. Monica Pierce, Lee Rosebush, Ryan Norwood, Nikki Center, and Kimberly Johnson. I know, but lunch is ready. Lisa's in the
You guys cool if I go first so I can talk about the shipping stuff? Cool.
You can start.
Okay,
Thank you.
good afternoon, everyone. My name is Monica Pierce. I am the founder and owner of 10th Ward Distilling Company based out of Frederick, Maryland. Here in support of the bill, of course. When COVID hit and we had to shut our doors, we did everything that we could to keep the lights on. We were instructed by the state, thankfully for some of these new privileges, to do things like shipping, direct consumer delivery, et cetera. We even got some grant money from the state to invest in our shipping platforms, to invest in packaging. to the point where now 10th Ward is generating over $30,000 a year in direct to consumer shipments. That's really important to us. What I'm starting to hear in some contentious points is first opening up shipping from out of state. I can say based on the size of our distillery, we have the ability to ship to states such as Nebraska and Alaska, for example. We don't have a customer base. I have it advertised on my website, but I've never had an order from another state like Alaska, for example. So I have very little concern that we would be seeing that similar challenge that everybody's been mentioning here in the state of Maryland. We're also still dealing with the effects of COVID. Inflation has gone up, supply costs have gone up. I still have employees that have to be out for 10 days at a time to quarantine. We need to do everything we can to pay our bills via these additional revenue streams. Lastly, if this bill were to sunset, if these privileges, allowances, whatever we want to call them, were to sunset, it would create significant financial harm to my business. It would mean less sales, less tax to the state. It would mean less purchases and purchasing opportunities to local farms and suppliers that we already do. And it would ultimately mean me having to lay off team members, which would be very unfortunate. So I really thank you for your time today in considering this bill. Shipping is huge for us, as well as the other items in this bill.
Thank you. Lee Rosebush.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Lee Rosebush. I'm the owner and distiller at Rosy Cheeks Distillery. I know I had the opportunity to come here last year. Many remember me as the guy with the coat. So I always try and do all my marketing from that perspective, including still as we go now. As most of you may remember, I come at this from a little bit of a different angle. I'm a farmer, right? I have about 150 acres just outside of Walkersville. It's in Frederick County. From that perspective, we are part of the the Maryland Agricultural Land Preserve. So we do use our own products from that perspective, as well as surrounding farmers' products. We have a flavored moonshine. Proudly, we actually make the best moonshine on the East Coast. It was voted at and brought that back to Maryland. We use local peaches in doing so. To kind of give you an idea, because we use local agriculture, we have 22 different products, 22 SKUs. Out of those 22 SKUs from that perspective, our distributor and the largest retail account uses and carries 7 of those. That means we have 15 different brands and SKUs that are not available regardless if you go to a store in Ocean City or if you go to Deep Creek. The only way for people to buy those products at this point is for us to provide them, whether that be through our retail location or being able to deliver or ship. That's why it's important. I've gone to many of the retailers who are actually sitting in this room behind us and have been told that they wouldn't carry more than a couple SKUs of my product or no product at all. Accordingly, there is no competition. You'll hear that over and over again that we're competing at this perspective. I'm a Maryland-based farmer. I'm a Maryland-based business. I have 6 kids that all go to school here in Maryland, and I try and support them using Maryland-based products and Maryland-based sales. We're no different than any other small business. You've heard them argue in this perspective that the retailers are small businesses as well, and we are no different. Without the ability to deliver from this perspective, we would be in trouble. And to be honest with you, over half of my sales involve more than the 3-bottle cap at this point.
Thank you. Ryan Norwood.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Ryan Norwood. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Sagamore Spirit Distillery. We are a small rye whiskey distillery in Baltimore City. I'm here asking you to vote favorably in support of SB 1041, specifically the limit cap on bottles for offsite consumption. For us, we were very intentional in our desire to build this distillery in the state of Maryland and specifically in Baltimore City. The hope of our distillery is to drive more people into the state, tourists from out of state. We know that the way to do that is offering variety. We know not all consumers drink the same products, like the same flavors. And so one of the ways we do that is we offer a variety of different products. At any time, if you come into the distillery and take a tour, you can see that we have upwards of 9 different products on our shelves. This limit on that bottle capacity would significantly hurt us in our ability to share those products with our consumer. As a up and coming brand, one of the biggest things that you try to do is grow by word of mouth and by gifting. And so we do have a lot of people that come from out of state, come from other states to visit the distillery, to spend time in Maryland, to buy products for their friends and family. And that is vital to the health of our distillery and the health of our brand continuing to grow. As you'll see in the bill, there is a production cap on the direct-to-consumer shipping and the delivery. That actually leaves Sagamore out of that, and I'm in full support of that. For my other partners, that for all the reasons that they've stated earlier, I know that that's vital to them growing their brands as well, and I'm okay with Sagamore being cut out of that. Thank you for your time.
Nikki Center.
Good afternoon. My name is Nikki Cedar. I am the owner and founder of Ten Eyck Brewing Company. We are located on our eastern shore in Queen Anne's County. Our location is steps away from Route 50. We see roughly about 4 million cars drive past our location yearly. A lot of those cars are on their way to the beach. We get people to pull over and that wouldn't normally stop in Queen Anne's County to spend money at our brewery on their way to either Rehoboth in Delaware or Ocean City. Typically, those folks that are on their way to a vacation may purchase several 4 or 6 packs of beer that exceed the current 288 ounce limit. For context, 288 ounces is a case of 12-ounce cans. We package our beer in both 12-ounce and 16-ounce cans. So any mix of a case, say, of 12 and 16 ounce would exceed that limit. What else do we got here? We opened our taproom doors in August of 2020. That was right in the middle of the COVID pandemic, during which that 288 ounce limit on to-go sales, the limit was lifted. Our customers are accustomed to purchasing from our entire selection of beers and ciders that we have in our tap room. Our closest retail partner is 7 miles away, located in Centerville. They carry 2 or 3 of our beers, usually those that are available year round. I don't expect them or any of our other 150 partners across the state of Maryland to carry all of our available beers at any one time. That could be up to 10. That's just not feasible. So I don't feel that lifting the cap would hurt them in any way. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we have Kimberly Johnson.
Yes. Hello, I'm Kimberly T. Johnson. I am the owner of Philosophy Winery and Vineyard. We're 5 years old, making wine in Baltimore City at the moment. I'm also the president of the Maryland Wineries Association, and I just wanted to be here to show my support for the Senate Bill 1041. As a small business owner, direct-to-consumer sales have been very beneficial to our businesses, and I believe it will also prove beneficial to my colleagues at the breweries and distilleries. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was very brief. Do I have any questions for this panel? Thank you very much. So finally, I think we have 6 unfavorables to come to the table, and then we'll have 1 virtual. So Kim Lawson, Ashok Kavi, Nick Manis, David Marburger, Hardik Mehta, and Steve Wise. Who would like to start?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Steve Wise on behalf of the Licensed Beverage Association. I'm going to start off here just talking about the 3 points that are in the bill. There is off-premise sales, which are currently limited in volume. The bill would make it unlimited, and we are okay with that. Number 2, the delivery. That's been in place since COVID. The difference there and the key sticking point with us on that is that it allows delivery by these manufacturers anywhere in the state. As you heard on the earlier bill, and I think many of you know very well, retailers can deliver today with permission from the liquor board, but they are restricted to the county in which they're licensed. So if you pass the bill in this form, you're giving manufacturers greater retail privileges than the retailer. On the third point of direct ship, which is most troublesome to us, I want to point out that I don't think it was mentioned, maybe it was and I didn't hear it, but not only did we say that there were constitutional issues, but the state of Maryland got sued last summer, challenged by out-of-state manufacturers
saying you didn't give us what you gave to the Maryland manufacturers. So that case is pending. You're no longer in control of the subject in a lot of ways because of what was done during COVID. So you have two choices. You either extend it to everyone, as has been talked about, or you keep it to Maryland, and you're going to end up losing the lawsuit and ending up in the same place anyway. We think it's a clear balance here. You've got what amounts to us to a 1 pound problem with the shipping part of this bill that you're going to try to address with a 1,000 pound weight. And that comes in the form of thousands of businesses that are suddenly going to go around the people at this table. And we just don't think on balance, that's the right solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Nick Manis here representing the Maryland Beer Wholesalers Association. We're made up of 22 wholesalers throughout the state. All except for one family owned have been here for generations. And just like you heard from the previous panel, we are still recovering from COVID also. So we have employees, we have work issues, but we're working through it. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this bill who sat down with us a couple times to see if we could work out our differences. But as Steve said, our main objection is the direct shipping into Maryland. And the way they made it constitutional was to say any brewer that manufactures 45,000 barrels or below can ship direct into Maryland, in state or out of state. Well, there's over 6,000 breweries in the country. 98% of those do 45,000 barrels or less. And everyone talks about, well, Nick, you know, it's very expensive to ship in. I don't think there's going to be that much. To me, if one case gets shipped in and it goes around Maryland business, the Maryland wholesaler, goes around a Maryland retailer, that's one case too many. And I think that the other thing that was discussed is we have 2 brewers that have actually direct shipped in the state. And those brewers, you passed a bill last year that limited it to the ones that currently had the privilege, which was, I think, 10. So out of that 10, 2 still only did it. Prior to that, which was probably 2.5 years, anyone could do it. So I think it's very limited. I think for those 2 brewers that currently do it, you also gave them the opportunity to self-distribute. You gave them the opportunity for a tap room. You gave them the opportunity to get out of the franchise agreement. So there's many opportunities for them to get to market. And we think direct ship is just not one of those avenues. And we are okay with the upping the limits for them on off sale. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Vice Chair, and good afternoon to the committee. I'm Hardik Mehta, and I'm President of Asian American Retail Association of Maryland. On behalf of the 500 plus members that everybody could not come here, just wanted to come and request the board to consider this as an unfavorable situation for small retail stores. As we all know about the current economic situation, and the foot traffic has been significantly hurting at our retail stores, and having this direct shipment will decrease more foot traffic. And so with all due respect, and I request everyone to please consider this as not a favorable situation for retailers. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Senate Finance Committee. My name is David Marberger. I'm the owner operator of Bay Ridge Wine and Spirits, Kent Island in Queenstown. Also the legislative co-chair of the Maryland State Licensed Beverage Association. I'll try to be very brief. I think that the direct ship portion of this bill is another slow push forward in the deterioration of the 3-tiered system. And at some point, we must draw a line in the sand and keep that system intact. The limitations on the size, I checked with a couple of our smaller distributors throughout the state who specialize in, and I'm referring to gallonage here, who specialize in craft breweries, craft distilleries from outside the state. One of the distributors says, that's my entire domestic portfolio. Everyone within that distributor's entire domestic portfolio would be able to ship directly into Maryland, bypassing another Maryland company, as well as all of the retailers. I hate to be here today to testify against the people that I consider to be our partners. I love having the Rum Runner van parked in front of my store to make a delivery because it means I've sold product to somebody and I need to restock. We distribute or we sell 10 Ike, sell quite a bit of it. Heavy Seas, we've been partners with for a number of years. I do consider the manufacturers behind us our partners, and I continue to want to work with them. Lastly, I was having a conversation with a customer in my store about high-end Cabernet, and his phone rang. He excused himself and explained to me that it was a UPS driver making a delivery of wine to his front door, and he had to convince him that because nobody was home, it was okay for him to leave it there. And of course, the driver did leave it. So please oppose Senate Bill 1041.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and the members of the committee. Ashok Kavi. I own a small liquor store in Waldorf, Maryland, Charles County. As many of the points been shared with you, completely agree with that. It's going to hurt our business. Mainly foot traffic is what we are concerned with. So we would request you to vote no against this bill. Thank you.
And finally, Kim.
Hello, my name is Kim, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kim Lawson. I own a retail store in Anne Arundel County, Fish Paws Marketplace. I agree with the comments as stated earlier. As well as David, I highly support the Maryland distilleries, the wineries, and the breweries. I have like 205 SKUs that I carry in store, and I'm very happy to special order things whenever anybody wants it. Some of my concerns is when the wine legislation was passed, we did really lose some customer base. We've had a lot of customers that now buy their wine online or they join wine clubs. So there is a loss of business for the small retailer and also for, they would be coming into our store, maybe doing a little shopping, looking for other things. So that's something to be concerned about. I'm also concerned about we do delivery and we have very strict rules we have to abide by. And I don't think it's really fair that the distilleries or the breweries would not have to abide by the same rules. It's really not a equal playing force. I mean, as was stated earlier, this also just opens it up. There's many times people are looking for a bourbon or something they had somewhere else and it's not available in Maryland. So that's going to be business that's going to be taken away from the retail industry and also from the other Maryland distilleries. They're going to have additional competition from these out-of-state small distilleries as well. So I ask you to oppose this legislation.
Thank you. Do I have any questions for this panel? Thank you all. Thanks for staying around and testifying.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have one virtual, Chelsea Crucity. Chelsea.
Hi, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you very much for taking the time today. My name is Chelsea Crucetti with the Wine and Spirit Wholesalers of America. We represent the 8 Maryland wholesalers that distribute more than 90% of all wine and spirits in the state, and we do oppose this bill. My comments are going to focus on the interstate shipping part. And from a national perspective, spirits shipping really, it's not the next big e-commerce trend. Consumers are actually not going online to the internet to purchase spirits, to try new products. A recent study found that only 9% of consumers were going online to purchase from a manufacturer. They're much more likely to try new products from a bar or a restaurant. Even during COVID in 2021, when everything was being shipped, legislators in all 18 states where permanent DTC shipping was introduced chose not to introduce it. And they've done so every single session since then. Currently, only 5 states in DC allow spirits to be shipped into their residents. So Maryland distillers would only be able to ship to those 6 states. And other than DC, your neighbor, all of those are on the other side of the Mississippi. And we've already talked about today about how expensive shipping is. And how the infrastructure is such a huge undertaking. So it's not the savior to local distillers that we all hope that it might be. And DTC increases the risk to public health and safety, increases underage access, and is an unfunded mandate. The Vermont DTC recently conducted a sting operation. They found that not one shipment was conducted lawfully. Only 20% of people were carded, and this is where it brings in underage access. So 2 deliveries were made to minors. The report concluded the cost of a comprehensive program would be extremely expensive for any widespread application. We respectfully ask that you oppose this bill. Thank you for your time.
Chelsea, thank you for your testimony. And do I have any questions for Chelsea? Thank you. That ends our hearing for today. We all worked really hard, and lunch is in the conference room for all the committee and staff. Thank you.